Hey everyone.
Okay. Hello, we're live. And our Adrian, the Canadian, might be smoking something at the moment, and it's possible that he can't join the stream until he finishes smoking. But though I think
I mentioned that we call him either Canadian Adrian or just Canadrian. I think those are better names.
Canadian, oh, Canadian, oh, that's really funny.
Adrian the
That's
Canadian.
So what I'll do is, and hopefully he'll join the stream. Otherwise, we're just going to have to. I know he'd say some things that are deep and philosophical and metaphysical and funny.
Yes.
So let's hope he joins. Let's read what's going on here. Okay, there are these Tic Tac shaped drones. Says Tic Tac shaped drones swarmed Navy destroyers. No one knows where they came from. Apparently, the Trump administration was looking into them. They are breaking the sound barrier, but they don't create any sound. And if they were just plain old drones, they stay up there much too long. It's kind of like drones have a shelf life of 20 minutes or something like that, and these things just stay up there and they never go away. And they've been seen all over the world. Either they're one of those secret projects by the military that they don't want us to know about, or they are coming from, the third thing will say they're coming from outer space. The next thing, what it could be, is drones coming from China, because China has got billions of people and an army, and they're building those islands into the sea, making their country bigger, and they're watching us at all times. And we're caught up in this cancel culture and hating Trump for no reason, because if you've been following if they've been following the news, they found out that all this stuff they said about Trump is a lie.
Yes.
Everything's been censored. It's been at that phone call to Georgia about finding ballots. That was
that was the phone call to Rafflesberger. There was another phone call where he said something, and it was a completely fabricated quote. It was still used in his impeachment trial. Yeah,
and also the censoring of the news about Hunter Biden, all that stuff that would have changed people's minds.
Yeah.
About voting for Biden, because it's so bad. And there were pictures on his laptop of him with people he shouldn't be with. And, it's not also, there's this whole gun story. This is, he had a gun, a 35 caliber, and he was dating his brother's, who was the attorney general, his brother's wife, but his brother died. And he was also dating her sister, as well as some strippers. And she took his gun and threw it in the trash behind a grocery store. And she covered it in something. And some guy who comes regularly to go through the trash apparently found it, because they looked in their cameras, because they film everything. You see, these people don't even realize that there are cameras everywhere. And this is what do you call it? He was thrown out of the Navy for using cocaine. For using cocaine. So he's a real winner. And none of these people know that there are cameras everywhere. Also, there is a high school right across the street. So any of these children coming out of high school, young people coming out of high school could have found that gun. And all these little things are hidden. Oh, and this happened in 2018. Wasn't that long ago. So all these things are coming out, disproving all the lies about Trump.
Yeah.
And what we have to remember is they do this, but they've never done it so to this extent to any Republican candidate.
Yeah.
You go back to Ronald Reagan. He was also Hitler and the leader of the KKK, which he wasn't. African Americans were doing better under him than Obama.
I'm sorry. I want to go back to the second impeachment trial. I know of at least three ways in which they lied or deliberately misled people. There was the quote from an anonymous source that ended up being totally apocryphal. Then there was the tweets that they doctored, that they showed to the House of Representatives, the doctored tweets, and third, well, they had the video with that, of course they edited up, but they also no, I forget something, but yeah, there were three ways in which they basically lied to the court. Yeah.
So getting back to their lies. Remember how bad they were to Bush? Of course, he started a war that shouldn't have been started, and Kerry and Hillary Clinton voted for it before they voted against it, which means they both voted for it. There wasn't a second vote, but he got away with all that, and he got away with it because he ended up hating Trump, because Trump, kind of with one word, with two words, low energy Jeb, kind of pushed him right off the board. So they hated him and liked Hillary. So everybody who was vehemently against,
because
Bush,
the neocons had more in common with the neolibs than they did with Trump.
Yeah, that's true. But they really hated him, and this guy was hiding Bush was hiding in the bush, in the grassy knoll, and he was going to basically die unknown. Like with a horrible. His tenure would have been stained terribly, because everybody really still hated Bush until he said that he voted for Hillary. Then all of a sudden, even my sister goes, "Oh, Bush was bad, but he voted for Hillary, so I guess he's good."
Just
unbelievable how that just slipped on a dime.
John,
the devil. And remember the woman in pink and Cindy Sheehan constantly protesting against the war. Obama gets in, the wars escalate, and nobody's protesting anymore. With Romney, the same thing went on with Romney, and
even guys like John Bolton, even warhawks like John Bolton, suddenly the people who are protesting against the Gulf War suddenly love him, and they love Dick Cheney and all these people who speak out against Trump.
Yeah, well, what happened was with Romney, they said that he didn't pay his taxes, and what happened was it came out after the election, after Obama won, that he did pay his taxes. And they went up to Harry Reid and said, who's a Mormon, so Mormons can be Democrats. Most Mormons actually are Democrats for some unknown reason. It said, you lied. You said that he didn't pay his taxes. And he looked at him and said, we won, didn't we?
Yeah.
They knew it. They knew this is all lies.
Just like
that you tore the country apart.
Yeah.
The country is, we've got homeless people all over this country. We've got and I'm ready to be homeless myself, because it's impossible to pay the bills, and there is nothing. And now they went from 2 years waiting for Section 8 housing to 10 years because the people coming over the border. Now you just have to call Social Security. Now it's indefinite because of the people coming over the border. So if you care, there's a lot of Black people on the streets, African Americans, and there's Hispanic Americans that are on the street that were born here, and they have no place to live because the people coming over the border get into that housing immediately, and they get everything on the door.
As far as
if you care about people, if you care about minorities, you should be. And this is on top of the sex trafficking and the little children getting raped, going across and going into sex slavery and human trafficking. This is on top of that.
70% of the women and girls who come across the border are raped. Now, everyone's so happy.
And that's according to Doctors Without Borders and Amnesty International, which are both not, they're not on either side of the fence.
Not pro-Trump. Now, everyone is so happy to get their $1,400 checks. Meanwhile, the migrants in Texas are being housed at $7,200 a head, pretty much. So
it's going to be $86 million.
Yeah.
And that's what they're telling us. It's going to be more, and it's going to be longer. For 6 months in a posh hotel. And why? These people, first of all, they're not homeless and they're not jobless where they're coming from. And Trump had fixed the problem because he was working with these countries to get rid of the crime. And El Salvador, they say, is a beautiful country. And it's a small, it's got 2 shorelines because it's not a big country. It's gorgeous. So if you remove the, and the president there, who is a Muslim, I think he's from Iran. He wants to get rid of the crime too. He was looking forward to Trump helping him do this. And so it was going to become, anybody living there would be making a lot of money because everybody would be going down vacationing there. So that's El Salvador and Guatemala. That's where all these migrants are coming from. So if you remove the crime, and these people get to stay in their home countries, and they get probably make a lot of money in the sunshine, then coming up here. It broke my heart. Like a couple weeks ago when the surge started, when we first started hearing about people coming over the border, and they were taking them from the border and bringing them all the way up north where I am. And they said, oh, they're going to live with their family. They said, no, they're not. I said, no, they're not. You're bringing them to my state. And I'm a foot away from being on the street. And it just felt like something just went through my heart. How dare you? You first is 2 years, then I wait 5 years, and then you tell me, oh yeah, it's 10 years. And if you look on the computer, they lie to you. It says 2 years on the computer. I was on the computer on the World Wide Web. They're lying about it. You call Social Security, and they, oh yeah, it's 10 years now. Now it's indefinite. So, and that it's not just people who are as white as me. Though I have a Egyptian Muslim surname, thank you very much, and it doesn't get me anywhere. You've got a lot of minorities. If you don't care about the white people, just throw us all off the cliff. And all the white people go off the cliff. You are taking not homes, but also if they're on the dole, that's assistance that you could be giving to poor people, poor minorities, making better housing for them, giving them better schools, which Trump was doing, better jobs and better schools, all the way from grade school through college. He was concentrating on the Black schools.
Yeah. The illegal immigrants are getting resources that even military veterans don't get.
Yes, yes, that's right. Of course, and now if you
and many of them are.
And if you want to switch now, it's okay. If you don't like your gender, you can go. So people will be going into the army to get a free sex change. That isn't what the army's for. That costs a lot of money, and we need to, you see, because these Tic Tac drones.
She's circling back. She's circling back.
Could be, yes, I'm circling back. These Tic Tac drones, this is the reason why I'm saying this, we're concentrating on all this other stuff, which Trump actually fixed. And I'm listening to English radio now. In English radio, they were talking to some woman in America. And she was saying, oh, the guy there, the English host said, oh, it was fixed before. The border there was bad. Oh no, it was the same thing. They were just piled up on the other side of the border. Oh, they were on the other side of the border. Versus what were they doing before they were on the other side of the border? They were on the other side of the border.
Yeah.
So she makes it sound like Trump didn't fix it, which he did. So we've got this, these things could be UFOs, but they don't really want to go into that territory yet. But China is laughing at us.
Yes.
And they're telling us that, oh, we've got this problem of Black Lives Matter and how, we're the racists, and they're killing the Uyghur Muslims. And oh, it's their own Biden. It's their cult. It's their culture. No, it is not. Shuang He. No, get his name. He was in, I think, the 14th century. He was a Muslim, Chinese Muslim, and he traveled the world. In fact, they believe that he came to America, or Marco Polo went with the Chinese to America because they built these incredible boats. And I kept his name here somewhere. H.E. is his last name. I want to give him the respect that he deserves. Z.H. Zheng He. He was a Muslim, and we're talking a long time ago. See, what era are we talking about? Okay. Born in 1371 and died in either 1433, 61 to 62, or 1435, 63 to 64. But he traveled all over the world. So this was not their culture. This was never the Chinese culture. Muslims were there and they were respected. And this guy had got all the admiral, diplomat, explorer, and palace eunuch. You know what that means. I guess it's their culture.
That's their culture.
But well, they did. That's what they did. If you worked with the emperor, you had to be a eunuch because they didn't want to have those men around with the courtesans, because he would have like 25, 30, 50 courtesans, and they didn't want anything going on between. But the eunuchs
was taxpayer funded.
What's that?
It was taxpayer funded.
Oh, it was a Ming Dynasty. And, there was a little I'll throw this in because this is kind of fun. There was a little episode about, well, apparently.
She's lowering her voice. She's lowering her voice. I know what happens when
see, the emperor was away, and the courtesans don't. See, the courtesans don't. There's so many courtesans that they don't get to be with the emperor very often, and they have needs. And even though the eunuchs are, you know what eunuchs are, okay? Apparently, they were doing things to the courtesans to satisfy them. And it was found out by the emperor, and so he had them all killed. And Lady Hui, she was supposedly very, very, very beautiful. She wasn't there at the time. She was traveling somewhere else, and she was the only one that wasn't killed, wasn't slaughtered for doing this. Obviously, you can't do that to the. But lucky her, when he died, she had to be with the other courtesans too. She was hung by a silk scarf, had to put into basically a pyramid made out of dirt. And that's the pyramid of the first emperor of China. And they say that there's jewels in the ceilings, and there's mercury rivers, and there's all these booby traps. And, the terracotta warriors of Cheyenne, that's a part of that tomb. And it's hard to, they still have writings to this day, what's actually in that tomb, and the jewels and just the treasure that's in that tomb. So part of all of us wants to see what's inside that tomb. But if you can get through the booby traps, you still are going to get into a room that's got mercury rivers. So you could die of mercury poisoning. So she's in the tomb, obviously, with him, as if that did her any good. But anyway, this is not their culture. This is so. But then again, Biden,
let's fly some Tic Tac shaped drones into the tomb.
Well, the drones may be coming from China, because China is building up their military, and they've stolen a lot of our secrets.
Mm-hmm.
And during the 8 years of the Obama administration, the military was depleted, and they were going to junkyards to get parts for the airplanes. And also he was actually womanizing the men by making the soldiers dress up in these, like they're pregnant, and with high heel shoes, so they can feel what it's like to be a woman. So he was castrating our military. So we could kind of connect that with the emperor.
Mm.
He was castrating our military. And Trump was building it up. And now you've got this issue with this thing. This thing could be a UFO. It could be one of ours. But even though the military is far ahead of us, like they had emails going 20 years before we had emails going, it seems like with the 8 years of Obama, it's hard for me to believe that this is military technology, because he took the money away from the military and he was breaking it down and making us look weak. And now the world is laughing at us.
Yeah.
Australia. I'm watching Australia television as well. And they have stuff on Biden every single day.
Yes.
On how, what an absolute he's weak. He doesn't know what he's doing. And they're just laughing at us. We are absolute fools. So these Tic Tac drones are probably from China. I can't imagine, I could be wrong about that, but who else has that technology and the manpower but China, and the money but China?
Yeah.
So if it's not UFOs, which I bet it isn't, it would have to be something coming from China. It's hard for me to, though we want to believe it's a military thing, our military. I don't think so. I think it's coming from China. And our country is imploding as we speak. And I don't know. I'm going to have to apologize. It looks like Adrian the Canadian is not showing up. He said he was going to do a little smoking before he came on. And oh, look, there's a monument to him. There's a monument right here to that great explorer.
I thought you said that there. I thought you were saying that there was a monument to Canadian Adrian. I think.
Oh yeah.
By the way, for some reason, I'm not getting the dialogue box where I can participate in the chat. So I'm sorry, I can't respond to any of you people. I don't have.
Why? Isn't there something you click above that says
private chat? Private chat.
Click on the sidebar. Doesn't the sidebar say comments?
Yeah, I see the comments.
Did you click on it?
Yeah, I just can't respond to anyone.
But you don't have a little box at the bottom?
Nope.
Oh well.
Not a big thing, but thank you everyone for your comments.
Oh well, I'll say miss you. No one can do this. No one can do this. Do this like you. Really? I mean, there's just nobody does it better. This song. Who sang that song? Oh yeah, Carly Simon. It was a 007. It was 007.
Oh yeah.
No, nobody can do this better than him. But we're going to try.
Yeah, it would be interesting, if we could shoot one down and reverse engineer it, but I guess they probably have.
My guess is how can it be the military?
Yeah.
How can it be? We've lost some. We've lost some people here. Once I said, it looks like Adrian the Canadian isn't showing up.
Devotees.
We lost several people. Okay.
It's false advertisement, is what it is. Yeah.
It's true. Okay, over the course of 4 nights in 2019, several unidentified drones visited U.S. Navy destroyers off the coast of California. The drones, although seemingly harmless, displayed an obvious interest in the destroyers. I mean, this already doesn't sound like it's our military. It just doesn't. The Tic Tacs shaped objects were reportedly similar to the UFOs that Navy pilots observed in 2004. Several U.S. Navy guided missile destroyers sailing off the coast of Southern California reportedly encountered a mysterious fleet of drones in 2019. The Navy investigated the bizarre incident, which filmmaker David Beatty and the War Zone both reported, but came away without a satisfactory explanation. On the night of July 14th, the Arleigh Burke-class destroyers USS Kidd, USS Rafael Peralta, and the USS John Finn were sailing approximately 100 miles off the coast of Los Angeles when crew members sighted the strange craft.
We should just have a channel just you reading the news.
Okay, ship's log indicate the USS Kidd spotted 2 UAVs. Now they're calling UFOs UAVs, or unnamed aerial vehicles, and called out the ship nautical or otherwise photographic interpretation and exploitation SNOOPIE team to investigate. I guess it's called Snoopy teams. Are typically made up of sailors equipped with commercially available consumer grade cameras that take pictures of objects of interest and possible threats to the ship. According to Kidd's log, Perlotta and Finn also called out their Snoopy teams, which Finn explicitly announcing it had spotted 2 UAVs. Kidd saw a red light and observed another visible white light above its helicopter flight deck. On the next night, Perlotta and another Burke-class destroyer, USS Russell, spotted the UAVs again. 2 other destroyers, USS Pinckney and USS Paul Hamilton, were also in the area, but the ships didn't observe the drones. Kit recorded more sightings of the mysterious drones on July 25th and July 30th. Although the crews of multiple warships saw drones, their sources remain unknown. The drones weren't identified as civilian drone models, and despite a nearby cruise ship flying drones on the days of the encounter, the ship's drones didn't match the description of the mystery UAVs and weren't airborne at that exact time of the sightings. In fact, the cruise ship Carnival Imagination called the Navy to report the sightings and declare the drones weren't theirs. Intriguingly, the sightings took place roughly near the location of the USS Nimitz, now infamous 2004 encounter with Navy-confirmed UFOs. Crew members who saw the 2019 drones described them as Tic Tac shaped, which is exactly how the Nimitz fighter pilots described their own perplexing UAVs in 2004. So these things have been around since 2000, which is kind of scary, which means the technology, I'm sure, is improved if you've got a span of 2004 to 2019. The drones are still a complete mystery. They reportedly demonstrated capabilities far exceeding commercial drones, including flight time. The destroyers also encountered the drones 100 miles from the California coastline, far beyond the reach of most commonly available drones, and there were no vessels in the vicinity that could have controlled them. In one case, a drone placed a destroyer as it sailed at 16 knots, so the drone operator was clearly capable of observing the drone's surroundings. Bartiromo, what's her first name? Maria Bartiromo. She was talking about this the other day. So this isn't, oh, this is just crazy stuff. She was interviewing a former member of Trump's team about these drones. The bigger question, who operates the drones and why they would choose to interact with a large group of Navy destroyers. At one point, according to Beatty, the drones were almost eye level with the bridge hovering. Whoever was operating the drones was clearly trying to ensure they caught the crew's attention, and they certainly did. The Navy 2019 drone sightings were not isolated incidents. That September, observers spotted 5 to 6 drones in and around the Palo Verde nuclear power plant. And in January 2020, a wave of mystery drone sightings took place over Colorado, Nebraska, and Wyoming. But the Burke-class destroyers' sightings are simply baffling. Who do the drones belong to? And why would someone operating advanced drones off the coast of California intentionally seek out and intentionally reveal themselves to U.S. Navy destroyers? One thing is for sure, if the Navy doesn't know the answer to these questions, neither will we. Well, What does that sound like to you?
I'm not saying it's China, but it's China.
Yeah, they're letting us know, and that's the scary part. And
now, this all happened in 2019.
Last time it happened was January of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is scary because we don't have a commander in chief.
Yes.
We don't. We also the second or the one supposedly probably is president.
She's doing diplomacy. She's in charge of diplomacy now.
Are you going to the border? Not today. Oh my God! It's like she's got some kind of mental problem. I mean, there's just something wrong with her mentally.
And that's in every photo. She's
so bizarre. Yeah. And recently they anybody who smoked pot, even in the past, they fired from the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And she has openly been talking about how she smoked pot, and her father was pissed off at her for describing herself and Jamaicans this way. And she put people in jail who smoked pot, even if she knew they were, when she had evidence that they were innocent of the crime. She kept them in jail to get free slave labor for California. This is supposedly our president that was handpicked by Obama, and she didn't get one electoral vote.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be, I guess, as long as you are the president or vice president, you can take all the drugs you want, but you can't do that if you work for them. It's very interesting. So whatever's going on, this is really awfully scary because some country has got this technology. Mm-hmm. Canada's got a military. Could be Canada, who knows? And Adrian was a part of Canadian military, and he's building all sorts of things. He was in a higher, something like a soldier. He did the technology. That's what he worked in. So he's a good person to talk to.
In the Canadian military, yes.
And so it's a shame that he's not here, because he could maybe shine a little bit of light on what this is.
The Canadian military expert would be here, but he smoked too much pot. So, sorry, folks.
He's trying to get him on again, because his brain, basically picking his brain, that he if anybody, he could let on what's going on, and definitely what country. I know that Canada does work with China, and the labs are connected.
They were doing Chinese military exercises. Remember that? They were doing like urban warfare military exercises with China.
Yeah. So this is so. Well, it would have to be a combination of Canada and China.
Yeah.
Then, and if we asked Adrian a question, he might not give us the answer, but I think the look on his face would say everything.
Oh boy, that would have been such an interesting discussion. I'm sorry, everyone.
I'm telling you that I remember once he told me about something that's occurring worldwide, that he knows something about it, and he can't tell me now.
Yeah.
And I told him what I thought I knew when I did my research. And the answer basically he gave me back was, I've got it on target, that
Yeah.
Well, I said, yeah, well, I found this on the web. And it's like, so apparently, when my first video I did on that particular subject, I did a lot of research before I even did the video. So the other part of this is what's going on in the world, what's going on with our government. It's if you knock down, if you eliminate the president and vice president, you've got Nancy Pelosi. Mm-hmm. She's the third in line. Who do we have really running this country that knows what they're doing? None of them seem to. They're passing these packages.
Yeah.
Almost $2 trillion, and then before that was also $1.5 trillion or something. And it's going to crazy things all over the world, not to help the American people, not to build back, to give it to businesses that went under. During this pandemic, why are they? They're just. It's just like their pet projects, things that will benefit them. They're like children in a candy store.
Yeah.
They say, we can take as much money and make as much money as possible and spend it on whatever we want.
I used an expression. I was talking with my sister earlier about this. I know she's listening. Hey, but I said winning the election. I'm not going to use certain words, but we know what happened with the election. And so for people at the top, I think they were engineering it. They kind of knew that they had the resources to pull it off. For people at the bottom, I think it's going to be a case of the dog finally catches the car and now doesn't know what to do. And so I think a lot of people who say, well, I didn't actually expect this to work, and now they're going to start getting paranoid, because there had to be people organized at every level, as Time Magazine called it, a well-funded cabal, and they pulled it off.
Yeah, an army of poll workers.
Yeah.
Fortifying the election, because they use some wording that I've heard before, and that the Democrat, this is their modus operandi, with the super delegates. Remember the super delegates? Mm-hmm. And they're asked, why did they even, why don't regular delegates work? Why can't you just pick the candidate that the people elected? Well, the super delegates are in place just in case the people vote for the wrong person. Yeah. And that's the same phraseology that was used in the Time Magazine article about fortifying the election, just in case the people picked the wrong person.
Yeah.
The election was going the wrong way. We made sure it went our way. Mm-hmm. And I guess they're very good at this, but why? You're destroying. You don't tell me you care about minorities. Tell me you care about the poor. You're destroying this country just because in less than 4 years, Trump brought jobs back, gave money. It was helping the African American community. Prison reform, because of Biden. You voted for the person who wrote the 1994 crime bill that sent all these African Americans, minorities to jail, 3 strikes and you're out, and called them predators.
Well, that
it's the wording that he used, and of course the first lady. Yeah. The president that signed him into law, and the first lady called them super predators that should be brought to heel. This is the guy who can't stop saying racist things. Mm-hmm. This is the guy you put in office. And then the woman who put and kept people in jail for nonviolent drug offenses, or she had the evidence that that showed that they were innocent, and she kept them in jail anyway, just for the free labor, which means she's guilty of slavery in this. I don't care what her melanin content is. She's mostly Indian Brahmin. But the what do you call it?
Well, she's a girl boss.
The Jim Crow South, they had a thing called the one drop.
Mm-hmm.
One drop of black blood in your black. Well, that's what they've espoused, is the one drop. She's got a little bit. So even Leona Horn had a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of black in her. Tiny bit. She was considered all black. And what's her face? Halle Berry. Her mother was Polish. Her father basically was a one-night stand. She never saw him again. Or she never saw him. The mother never saw him again. It was a one-night stand. She was raised by her Polish mother, raised in white culture. I remember there's a show on PBS. It's called Find Your Roots. And they asked because some of the African Americans they were doing these DNA tests, and they could find exactly where in Africa that they came from, their ancestors came from. And some were mixed with white, and they thought that they were actually Native American when they saw the photographs of their ancestors with long, straight black hair. They thought it was Native American. And as it turned out, it was white. And one of them, African-American woman, light-skinned. I don't remember her, I don't know her name, but they asked her, what do you consider, if someone has a lot of white in them, what do you consider, how would you judge this person as white and this person's black? The culture that they were raised in. If they were mostly white and they're raised in black culture, then they're black. But if they're raised in white culture, then they're white, which would make Halle Berry white, would make Barack Obama white. And Halle Berry married a white man. And the child was one quarter African.
Yeah, well, it seems like...
And so she insisted, she said the one drop rule says that he's black.
Mm.
And this was over 10 years ago that she said this, maybe 15 years ago. She said they're espousing the one drop rule, which is totally racist, just like Meghan Markle, who is a quarter black. Her mother is biracial, and her son is an eighth, which it's such a small amount, but they're espousing the one drop rule. So,
well, you think if America is so institutionally racist, why do all these mixed race people constantly put themselves in the black column? If they would accrue so many benefits,
that's right. Why you've got one drop that you're black. Yeah, that's right. If it's so racist, and why would all these people come from Africa, from South America, which even the Hispanic, being Hispanic was invented by Nixon. Before that, anybody south of the border was white, was considered white. And it was written into our laws that Mexicans were white. And there was no limit to the amount of Mexicans that can come and move here. They did that after the war we have with Mexico, and then we paid Mexico for the land. Yeah. Texas had already went to war with Mexico, so they could secede from Mexico and be their own country. And they said, well, we had won the war. We won the war, and we actually for 10 months had our flag in Mexico City, except America decided, we're just going to give you everything back that that was yours, that belonged to the Aztecs before the Spanish came over. Spanish and Portuguese, who were considered white, were considered white. And everybody who was Mexican and living in America, people don't get this part, they were Americans. They stayed here, and they said to the Mexicans, anybody who wants to come here, you can take all the land you want, and you can stay here. And we will, for immigration purposes, you are white. We'll consider you're right in the law, and there's no limit to the amount of Mexicans who wanted to immigrate here. But the people from Europe, from Sweden all the way down to southern Italy and Greece, there were quotas. Only a certain amount from each country could immigrate to America a year. And they considered up here was white. Not Spain and Portugal, by the way, but southern Italy and Greece were considered half black. And so the quota for southern Italy and Greece was less than the other countries.
Yeah.
It's if people don't remember that don't even think of that. They say, we want Europeans. Well, the Europeans couldn't come here if they were sick. They were sent back or detained until they were well, and they couldn't come here if they didn't have a job waiting for them. They didn't have a home waiting for them. They didn't have a sponsor. They had to have all those things, otherwise they were not let into the country. So people from Europe had it much harder than the laws we had for Mexicans coming over the border. And they were white up until the year 1980. That's when it officially changed. But it was Nixon that changed it. He made up the word Hispanic. And like, we're half Italian. I've got some Spanish in me too. But technically, technically everywhere in the world, you're a Latino and I'm a Latina. Yeah. Everywhere in the world, but America. That's absolutely insane. I mean, there are Germans in Brazil, but they're considered Hispanic because they're on the other side of the border. It's absolutely insane.
Well, I was thinking, I mean, this is so obvious. I mean, it's one of those things when you think through it at all, you realize the whole narrative doesn't make sense. But so I apologize if I'm going to make a very banal, obvious point here. But I was thinking about the whole white man bad, the white man has conquered the evil imperialists throughout history. Okay, well, the figure that they always use is Christopher Columbus, who came from Portugal, who was the same color as the people who are south of the border.
Half Jewish.
The fact that we're not letting them in means that we're racist, even though the fact that he was let in and did whatever he did, that's up for debate. But that's proof that white man is racist, even though white men, the people who were keeping the people who were the same color as Christopher Columbus, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, that's right. But he was like half Portuguese royalty and half Jewish.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And in southern, even Jews immigrated to South America as well. So it makes, but the white man is bad because, and all these people are a mix of lots of Italians down there in Brazil, Argentina, and Bolivia. Have a huge amount of Italians down there.
And they're just beautiful. They're just beautiful. So yeah.
But we're considered white, even though, like I'll take the light away.
Sorry, I was going to say that you're a little blown out. Yeah.
I got this little ring light which shines way too bright. But still, it's like, what if we're made up of the same mix as people in South America, or we've got enough Latin in us. I mean, Italy was the seat of the Latin world. So why aren't you a Latino and why aren't I a Latina? But if we went to South America, or if we went anywhere else in the world, we would be Latin. But anyway, so let's go get into the metaphysical, since Adrian could be sleeping. I don't know. Or maybe he's watching. If you're watching, hope I do a good job, Adrian. But we're going to try to get into the metaphysical part of this. There, for a long time, you, I, a lot of us have been watching the events unfold. What happened with the election, and Time magazine pretty much wanted everyone to know. The people who did this wanted everyone to know that they took care of this, and they wanted the pat on the back. That's why they let us know. But it also tells us that America's gone because there are no free and fair elections again. And if this HR 1 passes, not only will mail-in ballots be the norm, and there'll be bins all over the place, but 2 weeks after the election, the ballots can still come in, which means if somebody accidentally wins on election night, 2 weeks later, they can fix that.
Yeah. Well, did you hear? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but did you hear Pelosi's trying to get rid of a Republican congressman?
Yeah, that's right. Isn't it Marjorie?
No, the shenanigans never stop.
Yeah. It's they've got too much power, and this is what I've obviously been warning everyone about ever since I started my channel: is one party rule, and they've got it. And knowledge have it. Honestly, if some miracle doesn't happen,
yes, I agree.
That's it. What's the point of the election? There is no point, and obviously no voter ID. And again, they're saying it's easier to buy a gun than it is to vote. What are you talking about? There's no ID. Even when I would go and vote, there was no ID.
Yeah.
And my father, that was dying, who didn't vote, they said he voted. So they took people who were obviously sickly and not going to show up, and they voted for them. But since I'm in a blue state, it probably doesn't make any difference for this state. But it does make a difference, because unless this country breaks up into Democrat and Republican, and that would be the only thing that would save us, except the blue states will probably make war on the red states, is what's going to happen. And
if it comes to mandatory gun confiscation, I can see that.
That's going to happen. But also, they are brainwashing the military and making sure anybody who is for Trump or conservative is not in the military.
Well, I'm not sure that ever happened. They talked about that. I'm not sure any measure.
No, they say that. I heard they were doing it. I heard they were, just like the National Guard. They went through them to see who was loyal to Trump.
Yeah. So now you have what they want is a military that is not of the United States. They want a military that is of a party, just like the USSR, just like China, just like regimes that have historically slaughtered tens of millions of people.
Right. All right. And unless China, I expect to just walk in and then just take this country. I've expected that for a long time, because not only are they buying up our land, but we owe them lots of money. So they're just going to walk in, and that's why I expect
we're giving them our power grid. We could have
we gave them our power grid. They already have it. It's like they already have America.
Yeah.
I think we just need to wake up, and they already have America. It's already gone. It's the only thing that makes sense. How can you take our power grid unless you already own the country? Why are we moving towards Marxism this fast. But even Marx said, don't ever relinquish your guns.
Mm-hmm.
Even Marx said that. But it's the Chinese, the way the Chinese Communist Party took over China is what's been happening in this country. And I saw it. That's why I started this channel when Antifa hit. And the police weren't doing anything. Nobody was saying, look at what these people are doing. They can't get away with this. And I realized, oh, they're getting away with this. This is a plan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's somebody that is orchestrating this. And this is exactly the way China was taken down. And that's, if you've been with me and watched my videos for years, I've been telling you how communism takes over. And this is exactly what happens. You've got gangs that go out usually at night and beat you up, intimidate you, destroy things. They take down the statues. They dig up tombs and destroy the artwork in tombs.
Yeah.
People who there's no power. What they're doing is they destroy the past. They destroy song and poetry, anything but Mao.
Yeah.
And they had their culture. It was a great leap forward, and the culture, something about culture.
Cultural revolution. Yeah.
Yeah, cultural. It's the same words that we're using now. What they're using.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that, and so people ended up, they couldn't take getting and then they would torment and beat up elderly people because they had the wisdom. They remembered the past. They wanted everyone to forget the past. So you're seeing the statues being torn down, and Greta Thunberg now has a statue up. That's what you totally erase the past, so nobody knows what life was like. And create a new reality. And that's what they've done. That's why in our schools, they're not teaching the truth. They're not teaching history. They're lying.
The 1619 Project. Yeah.
And you're evil because of the color of your skin makes you evil.
So that's
exactly
is that so you got the 1619 Project. America is institutionally evil. America was founded on racism and slavery, and so you get people who believe that working in polls. They have no they have no loyalty to the ideals of the nation. They have no loyalty to the idea of
not if they've been lied to. Not if they've been lied to. Once you saw women screaming, wearing pussy hats on their heads, you knew that was it. I mean, what compelled you to do this to yourself? Mm-hmm. Don't you know how crazy you look? Don't you know how crazy you're acting? It's like they have no self-critical awareness. Mm-hmm. That's basically, was it the frontal lobe? When you get a lobotomy, you kind of remove that. They don't have self-critical awareness, and they've been lied. Just because a woman didn't get elected, there's lots of women. Let's find one that's not so crotchety.
Well, remember the first.
I mean, come on.
They did that women's march, like the day after. Boy, they had some good organizers. I wonder who was doing the logistics of this. That they got this all organized in like 3 days.
It was incredibly. It was organized. Can you imagine what? Can you imagine? They talk about Putin. That whole thing obviously was a lot. He's sitting back laughing at us. Look at their women. Look at, they have no dignity. They're ignorant of history. They're crazy and they're screaming and they don't care. And then he's looking at our leaders, and they are like children. We'll take all this money, we'll just print it, and we'll spend all this money on stuff we want, and we'll give the people a drop. In England, they're getting 80% of what their wages were all the time. Every week, they're getting 80%. They're saying lockdown, yes, but they're at least paying them.
Yeah.
We got a $1,200 check, and then 10 months later we get $600, and I'm still waiting for the $1,400.
Well, they promised us 2,000. They promised us 2,000, and that never happened.
Yeah, they said it was to get elected. You just lie to get elected. See, that's one thing Trump didn't do. He didn't lie to get elected. He said, "I'm going to do this and I'm going to do," and he did it. And he's the only one that ever has, and that's why they hated him. Politicians used to be, just in movies and books, everybody knew that they had that pretty happy family, neat, and there's the wife, and the politician would say all these lies, and then when he got into office, he didn't do them. He hired the people who gave money to him, and then you find out he's cheating on the side. They used to portray politicians the way they are, where they actually are. They're liars, and they don't do what they say they're going to do. And then you've got somebody who never ran for office and walks into but he worked really hard his whole life, walks into the presidency and does it better than anyone has done it. And we've got a bunch of politicians that are just spending money like they're in a candy store or a toy shop, and they're just children.
Yeah.
You know, they're basically pre-teens, kind of like reaching adolescence, and very hormonal. It's how did this happen? Well, this happened because you've got people like Schwab and Gates and Soros, big people in the world that got all this money, and they want the world run a certain way. And so they obviously...
Or are you promoting discredited conspiracy?
So you got the party.
Okay, so this goes back to the point I wanted to make before. So the pussy hats were protesting of free election. No one even debated that it was a fair election that got Trump elected, but they were protesting a free election. Now, if we even so much as express any sort of misgivings about how the last election was conducted, we say, "Oh, you're promoting discredited conspiracy theories." So yeah, it goes back to what you were saying. Even though, okay, so this is another thing. If you talk about the Great Reset, you're promoting right-wing conspiracy theories. It was on the cover of Time magazine. Talk about gaslighting. It was on the cover of Time magazine.
Yeah.
So the entire article was written as a prolepsis. It was written from a future standpoint. And guess what the first sentence of their Great Reset article in Time magazine was? It was, after Joe Biden got elected, we put into the thing the great. So it was already a fait accompli when they said this back in 2020. I mean, or maybe 2019 or something. No, it was 2020. But it was earlier in the year. So yeah, it was written as if Joe Biden had already gotten elected, and it was on the front page of Time magazine. But just like the fortifying the election, the well-funded cabal that fortified the election. Now, if you talk about it, you're promoting right-wing conspiracy theories.
Yeah, well, we're not allowed to say anything. All they did was, for 4 years, tried to get him out of office, say that Russia put him in. It was a fixed election. They can say it, but we can't, because we don't have freedom of speech anymore. And we're getting caught up in all these details. Oh, you're just like KKK, part of the KKK, still the part of the KKK. And we're getting caught up in all these little details to say, you did this and you won't let us say that. And but the big picture is, is the Great Reset. That's the big picture, and this is how they're getting it to happen. And we're fighting about the details, about what Joe Biden did or said, what Kamala Harris did or said, or what crazy Nancy Pelosi did or said, or Ocasio-Cortez. Just and all these little things, or you're being hypocritical. You said this for 4 years, and now you won't let us say this. And the big picture is like the bottom line I've been saying for the past 4 years is communism, is worldwide communism, is the new world order, is the Great Reset. It's kind of like you could put any name on it you like, but you have a group, a body of unelected dictators, like the EU is a body of unelected dictators who reach right into your personal life, and they have they basically, when we saw what happened to Alfie Evans and Charlie Gard, these two children, young children who were sick with a disease, America said, bring Charlie Gard to America. We've got therapies, and we've got children with the same issue that are now riding bikes. They're doing well. And even the Pope, even the Marxist Pope we've got, said, bring Alfie Evans to Italy. Don't let him die. We'll take care of him. But the courts in England and the EU, the courts of the EU said that these children cannot leave the country, and they cannot go home to die, which means the Charlie Gard's parents, almost nearly $2 million in donations. They were going to come to America and pay, and they wouldn't let him leave. They wouldn't let him go home. He couldn't even die at home, which means they own you. They own you. They own your children. They own your life. When Sarah Palin said there would be death panels, it's true. Ezekiel Emanuel, who wrote Obamacare, said nobody needs to live past 75. We will decide whether this treatment, you're too old for this treatment. That's a death panel. They decide. Oh, you don't like the words that she used? That's what it is. They own you. You've got this healthcare. Why should they waste the money on you when we've got all these wealthy people who will live till past 100? They'll keep going on and on because they've got money.
That's why you have to look the gift horse in the mouth when they start talking about UBI. Now you have the wealthy and powerful who view you as a liability, who see you as a useless eater.
That's right. You're a drain on the system.
Especially when you have a dissenting opinion. As Trotsky said, when the state owns the means of production, to dissent is to starve. So yeah, we're seeing, oh, well, you don't think Trump was inciting insurrection? Well, we're going to remove your banking services. So it's not
if you listen to everything he said, the censored.
Yeah.
Which I looked at my sister and I said, "Did you hear the speech?" And she said, "I did." And
okay, well,
friend, same thing.
This is my point.
It was censored.
Yeah. Okay. The idea that Trump incited violence, incited insurrection is effing stupid. It is completely effing stupid. But the more stupid the lie, the better it is, because you get to see who the true happy soldiers are, who's going to happily repeat your lie. So, I mean that's the thing. I saw people who were terrified.
They're listening to the MSM who said, I didn't realize when I said, "Did you hear the speech?" Because I heard the speech. I didn't hear any of this stuff. I didn't realize at that point that they listened to a censored speech.
I think it's more than that. I think it's more than that, because I see college-educated 50-something people who were saying, oh, Trump was inciting violence. I put screen caps. I put the screen caps of Trump's Twitter. I put screen caps of the transcript on their Facebook back when I still did Facebook. I put it there. It was like trying to get a cat to look in a mirror. They would not acknowledge it, and they kept posting Trump incited insurrection. So it's like, a lot of people, I think, know better, but they want to show that they're eager to repeat the lie. And the more idiotic, the more blatant the lie, the better it is.
I know my sister, the PhD, believes this. I told you he was. Well, listen. Okay, if he's this crazy, don't you think Hillary and Bill Clinton and Chelsea, who's a good friend of Ivanka, and they took his money and they went to his wedding. If he's that crazy, why were all these people? Nancy Pelosi took his money because he wanted to build buildings there, and to get your building built, they put your order at the bottom of the stack. You give them money, they put it at the top of the stack. Otherwise, you wait forever. They all took his money, even Romney. Don't you think they would have known, instead of being friends and taking pictures with him and hanging out with him, that he was crazy? In fact, my sister said, which she was thinking, because she knew that they were friends, that Chelsea's still a good friend of Ivanka, which I go, what's going on here? I think Trump knew who they were. And he knew what they were doing, and he basically went in and stopped it. Tried to stop what they were doing. But he knew sometimes you play the game. My sister said that they're friends. This is a setup. He's not really running because they're friends. They went to his wedding, and Chelsea's friends with Ivanka. This is a setup. He's not really. They didn't believe this, but then afterwards, he's crazy. Putin put him in. All this stuff. They hated him for winning because it wasn't something that he basically she was thinking in the beginning. I am sure she read this on Salon too, is that because he paid all this money to get the Republican nomination. He's not even a Republican, she said. He's voted Democrat. He did Democrat. He's voted, he belongs to the Reform Party until David Duke joined, who was in the KK. And once he joined, he got out. He dropped that flat. He didn't want to have anything to do with him. And he's voted Republican. He's been all over the board. So he's not really a Republican. He's just doing this so to lose, to put all this stuff out there and to lose the election. So Hillary would definitely win. Yeah, rather than having somebody else who was a viable candidate running against Hillary that really might win. Trump will do all crazy things and lose. That's what she was thinking in the beginning. And I assume that there's a lot of them out there that were thinking
that's some blue anon thinking, yeah.
Yeah, so you still have to, suddenly they forget that Hillary and Trump is dumb and stupid and crazy, and Hillary's the smart one, and Bill. Well, then how come he was friends with Trump? Why did they go to his wedding if Trump is so crazy and they're so smart? It doesn't make any sense at all. But I think she thought this was, I thought he was my friend. He knows that this is my time. This was owed to me.
Yeah, it's Hillary's coronation. Yeah,
it's Hillary's, exactly. And oh my God, part of me would rather have Hillary in there than Joe Biden.
Well, at least Kamala has full command, at least somewhat, from all evidence, has command of her faculties. Unlike Biden, who has to.
I'm scared. I'm more scared of her knowing what she did, she did to, which by putting innocent people in jail, that she had the evidence that they were innocent, non-violent drug offenders in jail for free labor, extended their extended their sentence to get free labor out of them, actually is guilty of slavery. Your melanin content is it is just so much there were 10,000 African slaves in America that were owned by African slave owners in America, and of course Africa to this day has 7 or 8 million slaves that we know of, owned by mother black Africans. It's like, and they were the ones who they would go to war with the opposing tribe, and they would bring the losing tribe to the shore to trade for guns or whatever. That's why it was called the slave trade. People, they're not children. People are children, and grown-ups are not taught the truth. They have no idea that as of 7 or 8 years ago, there was 43 million slaves in the world that we knew of.
Yeah.
And at walkfree.org, go ahead and look at the site. And people have no idea. They just think that the Western world invented it.
Yeah.
And it was the white people in the Western world that invented it. America
was the first country to end it.
So that's right. It was America and England were the first countries to end it. Yes, that's right. But also, there was a slave trade that was going on longer, and it was the Barbary pirates, the Muslim pirates, were taking people from Southern Europe, and we even went up into Britain, and were taking people for hundreds of years, and they were castrating the men. So it's even like in this country, you see, if you were taken by Muslims, and they had a big African slave trade, that they started that one, all the men, because it's not just today, it's been throughout time, the prowess of the African male, they were jealous of. So they castrated them because they didn't want them, And the women, they basically just wanted the women for sex slavery. And then when there was a child born of that union, they would kill the child immediately. So that's why if you go to Arabia, it's very hard pressed to find Africans, Black Arabians, because they were killed off. Whereas, yes, we had slavery here, and yes, the Democrats did a horrible job. they were terrible, and they still are terrible, and it's still the same damn racist party. There are Africans here today because they were here for agriculture. The Democrats, look, we'll chalk that up for the Democrats. That's one good thing they did. They didn't castrate the African slaves that they took. That's right. Excellent. I will point out what's good that they have done.
Make a video. That's a good video.
And our sport, and our sports and music, even physics. I mean, there's so many things that we wouldn't have today.
Yeah, they didn't kill all of the babies as soon as they were born. So that's you have to put that as a mark in their column. Yeah.
Well, they didn't kill any of the babies when they were born, but they didn't allow families to stay together. They would pull them apart, which is what they did with welfare. After they were freed, the families became intact and went to church every week. All of a sudden, they adopted that. right? And they were moving upwards until welfare and the father could live in the home. And then the 1994 crime bill pretty much sealed the deal that the father would never be in the home. Thank you very much, Democrats. Yeah, so we have, I mean, obviously, we would have, as far as sports goes, we'd have, as Eddie Murphy said once, if it wasn't for black men in sports, there'd be nothing but hockey. So I have to credit that to him. That was excellent. But there would be no Oprah Winfrey and her billions of dollars. You know, and the first millionaire, former slave, black woman, former slave, turn of the century, was the first African millionaire in this country, was a woman. And there were, in 1873, there were 13 African that were former slaves, Republican senators that were African American. And it wasn't until 1992 or 1994 did the Democrat Party have their first African American senator. So, but at least they didn't castrate them. They still have that little their mark. Yeah. I'll keep that one in the column there. So supernaturally.
I was thinking people who came here for a metaphysical discussion.
I know they do.
Sorely disappointed.
But it's creeping over the world. It's taken over the world. Yeah. So we're saying that this evil is taking over the world.
Yeah. And so it would be an act of divine mercy if we are spared a horrible tyranny, because all political fail-safes have fallen through.
Oh, Amy wants to know, why did Trump invite them to the wedding? Well, it's one of those things. Because Hillary was the senator of New York, and to get a building built in like, just like in Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco, you basically donate money to their campaigns, and they will take your request to build the building from the bottom of the pile and put it in the top. It's kind of like it's greasing palms to get things done, and that's the way things are done in that world. And you even have to work with the mafia to get a building built. You even have to work with the mafia. So if you work with the mafia, you got to work with Hillary and Bill, and you smile, and he was the former president, and you shake hands, and you get more people of power, and you can get your buildings built, and you get everything working. But he was waiting for a long time. They said, "Will you run for president?" Many years ago, he's asked many times. It's a mean profession. It's people who become politicians are mean. I really don't want to do it, but if I saw this country going downhill, I would do it. I think he was just waiting in the background, and friends with the right, because you got to keep your businesses going. And certainly they didn't think that he actually cared about America that much. They just wanted money and power. But he cared about America. In fact, he lost when he left the office. He didn't take a salary. He donated it to charity, and he spent so much money. It was legally, and he lost billions. It was like $2-point-something billion he had left when he left the Oval Office. So he lost. He did this purely to help America.
Yes.
And then you got the Obamas and everyone else who are Clintons, whatever. They get out of office, and then they make all this money, and they have homes all over the world. He lost. Everything he did, he gave. And he did, the only thing that he did lose, it's true, racists did vote for him the first time. We know this because the vote that he lost was white, the white male vote, and he gained more minorities, African Americans and minorities votes than any other Republican. They realized, the racists who voted for him because he was a white man, who really were racist, realized he's really helping the minorities.
Yeah.
He's giving money to their schools, opportunity zones, prison reform, undoing the whole, Biden said that you don't want to make your cities into racial jungles. That's why he passed the 3 strikes and you're out, which means if you're arrested 3 times, it doesn't matter. You got a bag of weed 3 times. Of course, that would never happen with me.
Well, Adrian,
you're in jail for the rest of your life, no matter how small the crime is. He did that, and he's the one you elect. And you've been saying that Trump is the racist for all these years. You can see where he was doing a power move. He was sitting back and he was watching everything that was going on. And when he would go for the presidency when he knew that after Obama got in. I mean, that was that. That's when things from Bush to Bush through Obama, this country went downhill. They were just breaking all the pieces, and the money was they were just pissing the money away, pissing America away. So the idea of this whole thing is there a prophecy, Armageddon, Revelations in the Bible? Is this all because there is an evil that has seeped into the world and people are choosing these people who want to rule the world, that are very wealthy? People don't know right from wrong. They don't grasp for morals, really caring about the poor, because they seem to turn their heads away from, wait a second, if we let all these people in the border and we've got all these homeless people here and these poor people, and you're still talking about reparations, how can you do this? More Americans will be, because you'll be raising the taxes, will be losing their homes, will be on the street.
Well, again,
say what you're doing is a bleeding heart liberal helping the poor thing, and it's like the idiot friend. If no longer a friend. If Jesus came and Jesus needed a home, the mother and the Mary and Joseph, and you would let them in, and all these people coming to the border are like Jesus. Jesus and Mary and Joseph, that is such a farce. And you say yes right away, but they were coming supposedly to Bethlehem for a census. They didn't come to stay. They just wanted a room at the inn.
Yeah.
They were saying, give us a home for free, give us free on the dole. That isn't what they did. You can't compare that with Jesus. But the first thing you say, oh well, yes, but wait a second. Do these people know that they're coming here, and because they're coming here, they're going to get housing, and we have Americans on the street. Mm-hmm. We have poor Americans. We have children and families that are starving that don't get enough food. I studied all this. California and Hawaii are like #1 as far as people who are homeless. When you're coming to our bar, it's like, oh, you're going to get a bunch of free stuff. Do you know that you're going to be putting people on the street? The taxes are going to be raised and more people are going to be on the street. These people they don't care about these people who are on the street. The reason why they haven't helped these people on the street, very simple. The reason why they haven't put any of these people into homes, very simple. Most of them are handicapped, disabled in some way. A lot of them have mental, they're disabled mentally, some kind of issue, and they don't know how to hold a job. They don't know how to even pay bills. And then when you throw them on the street, they die basically in 2 years. But these are not the people that they know are going to vote for them.
Yeah.
Even if they give them a home, they're probably not going to show up at the polls. They know that these people coming in who are workers and walked up here, oh, you've given this to us? Yes, we'll vote for you. But these other people are, they need medication because they need some psychological, they don't get it because they don't have a home. And to get anything on the dole, you have to have an address. So they don't get medical help. And so what they do is they end up taking illegal drugs or alcohol. They'll sing, they'll ask for money on the street, and then they self-medicate for their problems. This is how bleeding heart liberal they are. The only thing they care about is because they're going to vote for them. Because they're going to vote for them. People here will not. And it's not, you're not doing this out of the goodness of your heart. No, I'm just doing this to help you. I want to take you off the street. I want poor people to have housing. The money should go, even we tax Americans that work, should go for Americans that are poor, that are on the street, that can't make it, that are disabled or became disabled through work. That's, and I don't care if you vote for me. The important thing to do is the right thing to do, because you people who are voting for me now, if something happens to you and you can't vote for me anymore because mentally there was some kind of decline, I promise you I'll take care of you. This is what we should be hearing from our elected leaders or leaders, people who want to get into office. This is what we should do. I will take care of you, even though I know you might come to a point in your life that you can't vote for me. I want to know that I've left America better than I found America.
Yeah.
And to do that, you help the American people. And the minorities that are here that are poor, and the white people that are poor. Nobody talks about the Appalachians. They're totally thrown away. Who talks about the Appalachians? They have to walk 10 miles to go to the unemployment office to try to get training so they can get a job. They don't have clean water, so they drink Mountain Dew and their teeth rot away. Most of them die between the age of 40 and 55, either from drugs, disease, or suicide. And nobody cares about them because they're supposedly, what do they call them? White trash? It's so easy to call them white trash, isn't it? But most of those people are mixed. Yeah. That one drop rule applies for all of them, but not one damn Democrat politician says anything about these people.
Well, that was JFK.
And then there's more white people that are poor across the country. It's not just the Appalachians, because the number one poverty is white people. There are more poor white people than any demographic.
There was I think it's called McDowell County in West Virginia. I think it's the poorest county in America, and that was JFK's big war on poverty, is that he had a big photo op in McDowell County, West Virginia. That shows you how the culture has changed. We don't even think about Democrats going there to do their
photo. I know. Well, yeah, then they also bought the Kennedy compound in Palm Beach at a time where you were black, you couldn't buy anything You were Black or Jewish. You could not own anything, go to a resort in Palm Beach. It was completely segregated. And every single Hollywood person that voted Democrat and politician, they all went to the Kennedy compound for all these years. And they never said one word that was still segregated until Donald Trump bought Mar-a-Lago in 1996 and sued the city for $75 million and single-handedly ended segregation without becoming a politician. Just, hey, I'll just sue him. See how easy that was?
By the way, Amy Joy says not Native Americans. They use them worse than blacks.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a great quote where I think someone says, if you want to see how good government control works, just go to an Indian reservation.
And I was thinking about that. There are some Indian reservations that are so poor. There's even a hierarchy there. Even if you work for one of these gambling casinos, your Native American owned gambling casinos, there's a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And you can be Native American and be right at the bottom. So it isn't like they get all this money and then they spread it around and everybody's equal. It isn't, because there are some Native American reservations that are so poor, they also die very young of alcohol, drugs, and suicide. And nobody's helping them, and nobody's talking about. I was talking about this with Appalachians. The next thing I was going to get to was the Native Americans, because people don't. Problem is people don't even know this, that there are reservations where, and how bad it is, and how young that they die, because nobody really talks about it. But the most important thing is get these people into Section 8. They're flying them all over the country. They're coming in without masks and without vaccines or COVID test.
Yeah,
pushing them into buses.
6% of the migrants coming in are COVID positive. So yeah, we have to get a COVID test. We have to go on a plane or to go to a concert or whatever. But we have tens of thousands of completely unvetted illegal immigrants just streaming in.
That are coming right through. And if you put them all in the same bus and the same plane, everybody's going to get sick. It's all this energy is put into, those people have Native American in them, or some of them are all from okay, that justifies you not taking care of the Native Americans and the poor people in this country. Totally justifies it, because those people on the other side of the border
they're Democrat.
What? Yeah, because maybe the Native Americans won't on the reservations won't go and vote for the Democrats in this country. So why help them?
Well, I mean, homelessness is another cottage industry for the Democrats. Okay, so if you have the migrants at the border being housed for $7,200 a head, you have 60,000 homeless people in Los Angeles. They're throwing money at the problem.
Nobody cares.
They're building houses for the homeless. Oh, we have these expensive facilities. Don't you think more than a few people have their hand in the cookie jar?
Yeah, that's right. We need more and more and more money.
Yeah.
You take almost $2 trillion, and that's not the first stimulus. What do you spend? And it was 6%, or was it 9% of that whole thing is going to pay us checks, to give us money for COVID relief.
Who's going to
only 9% is COVID relief.
Now this is
it's like, wake up. And you've got all three branches of government as Democrat. They're pissing away your money. I'm going to check my dog. I heard him bark. So I'm going to check my dog, and you entertain the crowds.
Oh, okay.
Sing a song from Gypsy, the musical Gypsy. Remember Gypsy Rosalie? Let me entertain you. Let me make you smile. Let me show you some new tricks. Some old. I'm very versatile.
We will have our musical extravaganza some other time. For tonight, we do politics. But yes. So everyone's so happy that they got their stimmy. I got my $1,400 stimmy. Okay, so they took $2 trillion of your money. If you're not paying it, your kids and your grandkids and your grandkids will be paying it. So you got 9% back, and you're going to be paying the remaining 91%. Okay, maybe you're not in the highest income tier, but you're still going to be paying that in terms of goods and services. That's how it works. When you jack up taxes, you're going to be paying for it some way or another. And so that's what I think what Felina was talking about before. It's like, yeah, there was a common understanding that prevailed until liberals all went brain damaged that politicians were crooked and self-interested. This was not an edgy point to make at all in the 90s. But when I hear millennials saying, "Oh wow, Biden has a new tax plan, and he's only going to increase taxes on people making $400,000 a year or more," I'm like, were you born yesterday? Do you have no understanding about how these things work? Politicians lie, and yes, Biden has already. First off, Biden has promised to raise taxes. Biden's already lied, and even if he succeeds only in taxing people who make $400,000 a year or more, that gets passed on to you. You're already paying more in gasoline. You're already paying more in prescriptions. If he taxes the evil upper 1% or 2%, that gets passed to you. That gets passed on to you in terms of goods and services. But it's like the liberals just so infantilized at this point, they can't understand an idea that complex. So I entertain them.
Yes, you did, but you didn't sing a song. You didn't sing the
there is victory in the Lord, I say, victory in the Lord. Cling to the Father and His holy name.
Learn Gypsy. Okay.
I don't do musical theater.
That song. Well, I'm gone. Yeah, it's nothing like Broadway. You'll be the toast of Broadway.
Yeah.
Sadly disappointed. That's why Trump worked.
I think a lot of
that's right, Lone Stars. That's right.
I think a lot of the pushback he got in Washington, D.C. was non-ideological. I think really they just think, here's a guy who did not pay his dues and he's doing his job better than we did. I think there was a lot of resentment.
Why don't just learn from him? And I said this a long time ago. Look, if you just vote for what he's trying to do, because he's trying to help us. Just go along with it, and if you do, we'll vote for you. We'll vote for you, because it doesn't matter what party you belong to. You've shown us that you care about us and you want to help us. Just do it. Instead, now we have, as Time said, a fortified election. They don't care. They don't care. They're not trying to get our vote. They've got the army of poll workers and a fortified election. So it doesn't matter. Nothing matters anymore. Really.
we're going to rebrand Felina. It's going to be your black pill show, and it's going to be called "It's Done." It's done.
It's done. That's right. It is.
And you know,
but it is.
She's going to be the anti.
You would have to say all these people, like the crazy pussy hat wearers, these people who listen to the MSM, don't know that it's censored. It's their opinion. They're lying to them. They don't know the truth. They don't. We know that we're hearing the truth because we hear this news. They're not hearing this news, and then it gets let out after the election, after the person Joe is elected. Then we start finding out. They start finding out what the truth is, but at that point they don't even care anymore. They don't realize that they've been lied to, and they don't care that they've been lied to. But we heard this news first, so apparently the news we're hearing is the real news. Mm-hmm. That is the proof.
Well, we're getting all viewpoints, whereas they're only getting one viewpoint. So we can examine, we can weigh our options. We don't have the option.
There's no weighing options anymore. It's done. It's done.
It's done. Okay, thank you, anti-speech Shirley.
I say it's like why is it that we have so many ignorant people? Because when you trust the newspaper and you turn on the TV and the news anchor is supposed to tell you the truth. But then again, it's the schools. It's not just the people that are used to doing that. The schools have been feeding the youth communism. And they don't know. They don't know. And they don't know that the teachers' unions, all the money from the dues that you pay as a teacher goes straight to the Democrat Party. They don't know this. And that's why they hate charter schools, which say charter schools, an African-American child, in 1 month's time, if you put them, raises up to the same reading level and skills as the white ones, right? That are supposedly whatever. And then that's for 1 month, we'll do that. We'll fix that problem. It's because the schools, you've got teachers who are giving money to the Democrat Party because the teachers union, and you have this, what do you call it? The agenda of public schools, and then charter schools don't have that agenda. That's why even in my state, I wrote the senator say that we needed more money for charter schools because minorities perform better, and they sent me this long letter back how it can't be done and it doesn't really work, and it does work. It does work. You don't want it to work because the teachers union feeds the Democrat Party, and the unions themselves, the money goes straight to the Democrat Party.
And now they're force feeding kids this absolute garbage with what is your white identity? Are you a white traitor? Or are you a white, all this absolute just toxic garbage. It's like, why don't you teach kids reading, writing, and arithmetic rather than socially engineering them? Parents need to get, that's the thing, because good, sane people, there are a lot of good, sane people out there. Unfortunately, they're working 40 hours a week. They don't have time to protest these things. But we really need parents to go down to their schools with their placards, say, you're not going to force feed our kids this crap.
Aren't they? Oh yeah, they're doxing the parents that are against cancel culture. Do you know that? They're a list. That's what the communists is. They're making a list. And that's what the communists did. and they're putting their names on a list.
With the senators who didn't vote for Trump's impeachment, they did a counting of heads. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're doing that to the parents who are against.
You have the counting of heads. Yeah.
Right, to the parents who are against cancel culture. They're doing this. That's what you guys say. Why is
are you talking about the critical race theory? The critical race theory. Yeah.
Critical race. Yeah. Why is this thought even in their heads? You know what I mean? It's because it's not the color of your skin. Everyone is supposed to be equal. It's who you are that matters. Why are these people so brainwashed that they bought into this?
Yeah.
You know, when I was a child, we were moving towards that equality, and you're judged. It doesn't matter what you look like, because it doesn't matter where your ancestors lived in proximity to the sun.
Yeah.
It's such a it's in fact it's so stupid. It can't. How can this be evil when it's all about where your ancestors lived for hundreds of thousands of years and proximity to the sun? And Africa.
Well, yeah. If they lived in southern Italy, they'd have our golden complexion. Yes.
Yeah. But the countries that have slavery today are all the non-white, non-Christian countries, and they're not taught this. They don't know this. In fact, I wouldn't have known it if I didn't come upon walkfree.org. I mean, it's like you could just never imagine that slavery is still going. In fact, there's sex slavery. There's kings in Africa that have these little children as wives who are all pregnant. It's terrible. And I'm not saying that whites are good. I mean, because all this stuff can happen in any culture, but in the Western world, we've tried to get rid of it. We've tried. Oh no, abuse is bad. Abuse is bad. And like when I was in those groups with the battered women, it didn't matter whose color, what color you were, what religion you were, what race you were. You were all women who were basically telling the same story, having the same experience. And there was an equality and a unity there. And then several years later, it changed. And then you've got these angry women running it, basically yelling at all, being abusive to the women as if it's their fault. And I saw the change, and I left in the middle, and I never went back. I think this is changed. This is not it's really bizarre. But this happened. This didn't happen overnight. This craziness, it took a long time, many years for this change to happen. And
yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think. Especially someone who wasn't really that politically plugged in during the Obama administration. I think maybe the Obama administration was like, the swan on the lake. It looks very graceful above the water, but the little legs are flapping underneath, furiously. So I think what Obama was very good at was installing people at all levels of government who hated America.
And he did. We actually did, and the military people.
Yeah, certainly.
The judges that he picked, he did. He did more damage than we can possibly imagine. Yeah.
I'm going to. Sorry. I was going to start reading the comments.
And whatever happened to Governor Northam? Ralph Northam. And you notice all these people who did the blackface, as long as they're Democrat. And that was Trump. they would have the scaffolds right outside of the White House. Come on. Well, he would have a threefold death.
It's time,
like William Wallace.
It's time we start talking about Democrat privilege, because there's no one more privileged than the Democrats.
They can get away with absolutely everything.
Yeah, they can kill
all their leaving the baby there on the tray to die.
Say the most racist things imaginable, forge evidence, produce forged evidence in court, destroy subpoenaed evidence, do anything. If you have a D after your last name, it's all gravy.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So too bad Adrian's not here. We get in the whole idea of the darkness. This
darkening age.
Is it that people are they're being fed the wrong information, or is it that there's something more, like there's brain damage? There's somehow brain damage. Like my theory of
okay, so this is okay.
Of course, that I think it has to do with, because pot is so natural and its leaves, but people don't know that it causes brain damage, and it harms the fetus, and the fetus is underweight, and latent schizophrenia comes out when you smoke it. When your brain is still developing, this thing stays in your body for months. It's like alcohol, but they told us that alcohol was bad. When that leaves the body in liquid, and this stays in the body, and so you have a whole generation that, and not just, let's say pot, we'll say some other illegal drugs, that it's quite possible that we've got. That's why this doesn't make sense to us. And is because we would question, oh, wait a second, but if you care about poor people, what about those? But there's a lot of poor people and ghettos and people living on the street. I mean, we would question, you know what I mean? Even if we were fed junk, by our teachers, whatever, we would still look around and say, I can't buy that. But I think it's because there is brain damage. Or brain damage.
I was
serious brain damage.
Drain damage.
I mean, how do you explain this? How do you explain the and the they say that when the pill was in use in the late 60s, and then the hormones, when the woman urinates, the hormones go into the water, and then the children, boys, end up drinking it. I mean, and that just that hormone kind of screws everyone up.
Maybe that's just the falling testosterone levels. Who knows?
Yeah, the falling testosterone level right there. But also the whole idea of soy, this real push on soy, which causes boys to be eating women's hormones, and it's not good for women to have too many women's hormones.
It's funny. Either. There was a famous thing that on the BuzzFeed YouTube channel, where they had the Try Guys, and they all took T-count tests, and they all had like 1/3 the testosterone of what should be a normal healthy man. But I said my thing. I always had this like comedy bit about BuzzFeed. I said that the men all looked like ambulatory loaves of Wonder Bread, because they all had these featureless faces. They weren't ugly. They just had no features to their faces, and they all had the glasses, and they all looked the same. So maybe that's just like the low T count guy. Is he just looks like an ambulatory loaf of Wonder Bread? Yes. Okay, you've frozen up.
Yeah. Well, anytime you mess with the hormones of the body, there's also thyroid. There's something that causes the thyroid to not produce, because that's the controller of all the hormones in the body. There's something that actually,
then you become obese.
I forget what it is that causes it to. There's hypo and hyperthyroid. Hypo is low functioning thyroid, and I think there's something that's missing from your diet that causes it to be low functioning thyroid. And that there could be, nobody thinks, I mean, do doctors think of checking the thyroids of these young strapping men with low testosterone? I mean, that if the thyroid isn't producing hormones properly, I mean, it could be hypo or hyperthyroidism. Either one is going to screw up your hormones in your body, and that's the thyroid is the controller of that.
It is the powerhouse of the cells. I was kind of thinking, in keeping with the title of this video, which I guess you're going to have to change now. I thought you were going to circle back. I thought you were going to circle back and start talking about some sort of supernatural.
Well, that is, but it's just like I keep trying to go there.
Instead of going to buy.
Yet there are other things. They're saying, well, what, aside from, is it an evil force? Is it that people are stupid? Is it that they are listening, getting the wrong information? Or is it something that is physical, the nutrition-wise, drugs, the drugs their parents took while they were in the womb. You know, if you have low fetal birth weight, then you've got a small brain. Your brain isn't growing properly. You've already damaged your child right there. So are there other factors other than revelations in the apocalypse coming? Which could be, it could be too. Yeah, obviously. But are there other things going on that somehow there's an agreement amongst the world leaders to do this? Because when these countries fall, you don't want to be on the losing end. You don't want to be at the bottom. You want to be at the top. So basically,
another thing is you could be very wealthy. You could be very wealthy, but still, whatever gets your filet mignon on your table, there were probably about 500 people involved in the process of getting that filet mignon on your table. So you can't chop out too much stuff.
Right. That's why Gates said there should be only 500 million people in the world. So remember, some vaccine he tested on an orphanage in India, where you don't have parents that will sign off on giving and many of the children died. And he's the one that's behind all this, what's going on now.
Conspiracy theories again. I'm going to have to censor you for promoting.
Well, what the hell is he doing? And maybe he knows more about computers than he does about vaccines. He's going around. Yeah, obviously. We'll go to an orphan. We'll go to some. They say that America doesn't care about brown people. It's all we want to do is our military goes into other countries. George Carlin said this is what we're good at, is blowing up brown people. Well, if the lives of brown people are important, why does he go to India? I guess because nobody's going to know if children in India are going to die, especially in an orphanage. They're what do you call it? There's a word for it. I know there's a word for it, but that they're, nobody knows about them and nobody ever will. Nobody loves them. Nobody will ever care if they die. Like in England, there was a very poor class in England. In fact, it was Prince Albert, who was married to Queen Victoria, that noticed the poverty, and he couldn't believe, because he came from Germany. Germany wasn't bad at one point. This is pre-Hitler. He ended up in the poorest places, where were Jack the Ripper Woodstock and Oliver Twist, and the Artful Dodger, all that kind of poverty. And he ended up in this side of London, and he couldn't believe the poverty. He didn't understand why these people were doing the most work, and dying working and living in the worst conditions. And he actually helped them. He basically worked himself to death. Victoria wasn't doing anything as queen. He was really the king. And he fixed this. And there you go, a white German cared about poor people. But I suppose they're poor white people, right? But what happened was, these children were so poor, and they went to of course, workhouses, and they worked themselves to death, or they would experiment on supposed dead bodies of children who had died young, and they would get all this. They go to apothecary and they buy all these ingredients that would, what do you call when you make a body? I'm getting tired. You are getting tired. Yeah, it's like embalming, but it will never rot. The body will never rot. And I saw this whole thing and saw what these children look like. And the idea really is that these children were so poor, and a lot of them were orphans. They would just get snatched from off the street and killed. And then they would use their bodies, their skeleton, they would open it up so you could see everything inside. And then they would embalm that, so that would last forever. And so doctors could figure out how to cure children and humans who were obviously better off and wealthy. Yeah. And these children were literally taken from off the street because nobody knew. They disappeared. Nobody knew. Nobody cared about them. So it happens to white children as well. And of course, in England, they went through a time when even if you stole something, they would hang you. That was it. You get hung for even stealing a piece of bread. And they did that to white people. So they say that, the white people came over to South America, and they would kill the native people who were stealing their sheep. And that was the law from the country they came from. That was the law. That was poaching was punishable by death. That was basically the people who poached were poor people. So it was a class thing. It had nothing to do with, because these people were not white. It had to do with a class thing. If you poach, it was the death sentence. If you stole something, it was the death sentence. And then they realized, after they sold off the Irish into slavery, they even sold off the Scots. They sold off the poor English, who instead of killing them for stealing, they sold them off into slavery. So it has nothing to do with skin color. Yeah, it has to do with, basically, you're poor and you're expendable, just like the death panels. You're not wealthy, you don't have the money, you're on our healthcare system, we don't have the money to take care of you. And you're draining the system, so we're going to let you die.
That was Thomas Sowell's point, is that the Africans weren't enslaved because they were black, they were enslaved because they were there.
Well, they were enslaved because one tribe would go to war with the other tribe.
Yeah.
Because they did this on purpose so they could bring them to the coast and trade them for guns and whatever they wanted. It wasn't that they were there, it was because other African tribes wanted stuff and wanted power. It's still wealth and power system. That's what it is. Not because Thomas Sowell is completely wrong. He's completely wrong. He is, because this is what they did. One tribe, black African tribe, would go to war with another black African tribe, win, bring all the losers to the coast, and trade them off for guns or whatever they wanted. I remember somebody wrote, I did a video about this, and somebody wrote on this, well, what about the families, the reparations for the families left in Africa? What about them? That's something that has to, you don't understand. Everyone was taken.
Yeah.
There was no family left. Nothing. They took the whole tribe and brought it to the coast, and it was done by, so they're basically saying we have to pay for that. Okay, so have the Democrats pay, because they're the ones who were the slave owners. They're the ones who did the KKK. They're the ones who Jim Crow segregation, one drop rule. Them, and they love, no Democrats love the one drop rule. Have this, if you have a D after your name, it's you that should pay the reparations. Yeah. I have nothing to do with this. My family wasn't in this country, and Italians were considered half black, which means that's more than one drop. That means you're black in the South, and they were hung, they were lynched, and you could marry a white person, and you can go into a white shop, or you could drink out of a white water fountain. People don't realize that, that Italians were considered half black, but Mexicans were considered white under the law. It's like, but people don't know enough about history to know this. They say, oh, Italians are white. No, the northern Italians came over here because the southern Italians, they say, oh, we're poor. Here's when they were poor. They weren't. There's a whole history there. There was three kingdoms fell on them, made war with the kingdom of southern Italy, took the southern Italians, brought them up to the north, and put them in jails, basically like concentration camps. And more of them southern died than all the wars in Italy since the beginning. Died. And they actually made southern Italy poor. And where in southern Italy they had a school system, you could get free schooling. Your land and wasn't taxed. The goods that you produced from your land wasn't taxed. It was a really well-run kingdom, and then they destroyed it. So the northern Italians, who were, this is where Da Vinci came from, and Galileo, we're the smart people. We're white. You say we're near. Part of northern Italy was Austria. You know that? The top of Italy today was part of Austria. And they said it's the southern Italians because they're poor and they're so near Africa. They're actually half black. So when they came over here, they sold out the southern Italians and made them black. And so they ended up suffering just like the African Americans did. And people don't know this. And it's really sad that people don't know this. They'll look at you, they'll look at me, and they have no idea. They have no idea what the truth is,
Yeah, I kind of get the sense when you see the surnames of Italian Americans and you compare it to surnames that are common in Italy, it's different. It's kind of like in England. You don't have many like Kensingtons living in America. All the Kensingtons still live in England. It seems like the same thing in Italy. It seems like there's like a Southern Italian names that are kind of overrepresented in America that actual Italian nationals have kind of different kind of surnames. That's about as much as I know about that. Yeah.
Oh, the same kind of. Well, what happened was there was landowners and generation. If you owed you were poor, and so you had to pay for you where you lived because they took all the land, and so your children and children's children, the money kept accruing, the debt kept accruing, and they got poorer and poorer and poorer. And the way to get out of this was to go to America, either make some money in America, go back to Italy, or stay in Italy. And then the mafia were formed and were working for the landowners to try to intimidate the poor people into paying to get the money out of them. So the mafia was never good. They weren't good in Italy, and they weren't good here. So if to say that a poor Southern Italian is a mafioso is a real slap in the face, because they suffered under the mafiosos. You know, Cuomo, Alio Vendetta.
Well, I'm going to read comments here. So Benjamin Guilatko says, I read in the news, yes, it was in Virginia, the parents who are against CRT that are being blacklisted by teachers. That is really tyrannical. So they had recently, like 2 days ago, there was a parents refused to put a mask on their kid on an airplane, and the attendants on the airplane forced the issue, so everyone on the plane walked off. I think there's going to have to be some stuff like that. So we're all going to take our kids out of school, and you can't arrest us all. They're going to have to do something like that.
Yeah.
So Arizona Lawn Star says Arizona Department of Education's Equality Toolkit says 3-month-old babies are racist. Yes, so this is you see that critical race theory is a religion, and they have their own original sin. Anyone who'd accuse a 3-year-old of racism is one sick F. Yes. Sorry, and they kept censoring you, man. I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah, and so farmed animals injected with antibiotics. This could all be responsible for lower T counts. Even all the pharmaceutical drugs are so commonly swallowed every day by so many people. I'm guilty of that. I take a lot of.
They're packed in. See, because they're packed in so closely that they pack at the feces, and so it's it would make us sick to eat the animal, so they give them antibiotics. They give them whether they need them or not. Give them pump them up with antibiotics, because the slaughterhouses are so that's a whole nother show. A fully functioning slaughterhouse uses as much water every day as a city of 33,000 people, and then the disinfectants are poisonous that they use. They have to clean up the floors after all the killing, and that runs off into the water systems. And they pack the animals in so closely. In fact, chickens, they cut their beaks off so they don't peck at each other. That's what happens. They end up pecking at each other's feces. So and then the little boy, their rooster babies, they put them down a chute, and there's this like a fan blade spinning, and they chop them up, and then they mix it up with the feed, and they feed it back to the chickens. That's why it's so sick the way slaughterhouses are run. Things didn't, like when my grandmother came to this country, she took one look at the meat and said meat shouldn't look like that. That's it. It shouldn't look like that. And that was a long time ago, and it's gotten these slaughterhouses. Our need for meat has grown, and there's so much meat thrown away. Every fast food, every restaurant, right, buys a bunch of meat. It goes bad because you have to have enough to cover how many people come in, right? And you can't, because you can never run out. So there's meat that ends up going bad throws out and they throw out. I used to work for the supermarket in town, the florist department, and I would have to go through the meat section or the section flowers came in where the trash was, and there's the loading docks, and then when you open the doors to the loading docks, you can see all this meat falling from above. It's all the rotten meat because after it's expired, it's decaying, and they put it up and they push it out, and it falls somewhere out, and the stench, I can't describe how bad the stench is. If you see every single day how much meat one supermarket throws out, you realize all these animals died for nothing, and all these animals are compressed into these little cages, and they can't move, and they're just obviously slaughtered mercilessly for nothing. I mean, they didn't even feed anything. They died for nothing, and that isn't the way things used to be. You didn't have too much meat, too many animals, and animals roam free. And you kind of wonder, getting back to the supernatural. Just get back to the supernatural for a second on this note.
Circling back.
It's the suffering of all these animals and all this waste. The waste is a sin. Wasting all this meat because there's so many people that are hungry, but so much food goes to waste. All this suffering, let's go. We're in India now. These sentient beings are suffering and slaughtered mercilessly. Their whole lives are nothing. They suffer their whole lives, and most of them aren't even eaten. And so this is torture. They say when pain and when anything suffers, human, animal, anything suffers in this world, the suffering is released from the body, and it goes up, and it goes up and out. Except what happens is it ends up falling back down, and then it causes us to be warlike. And this is my thinking.
That's actually,
feel like the wisdom of the wisdom of the Vedas, or the wisdom of these much more ancient peoples. Is that yeah? Go ahead.
I was going to say that's actually like my theory of ghosts, because I think there's not really much place in the Christian cosmology for the souls of the dead to be putzing around on Earth. So like my thing is that all these hauntings seem to be connected to a traumatic event. And so what if what we're seeing is not the person themselves? What we're seeing is a psychic echo. There was a disturbance of psyche, and what we're seeing is like the ripples on the lake that are rippling out through time of this psychic disturbance. So that's kind of my theory of ghosts.
It was funny because this morning I woke up. I've been waking up at 6 in the morning, so I'm going to bed early, and I started watching videos about the ship, the Queen Mary, and how many people died on that ship, and it rammed into other ships, and then sailors fell, or there would be sailors and also soldiers were steamed to death in the hull of the ship, or fell into the water, were cut up in the blades. And there's some rooms where they say people were tortured in, and you go into these rooms and it makes you sick. Mm-hmm. You're frightened, you're sick, you can't breathe, and it's the torture that these beings have endured, these people have mm-hmm. endured on this ship. And because I like to watch videos on, like, Queen Mary was actually one of the queens of England, but she was married to King George the Fifth. She wasn't a queen in her own right. She was a queen consort. And I actually really love her. I just really love her. There's just something about her. It's almost like when I see her old footage of her standing on the balcony, and of course her husband is dead, and she's there and she's waving. Something about her makes you feel like, if I'm like standing in the crowd looking up, something about her presence makes you feel like this is still England. This is still my country. She's there. She's still there, and she's keeping things in order. And she was the one that started to get her husband to, let's go visit the poor people. Let's go into the homes of the people who either war hit or minor mine disasters, or just the poor areas, and go and I'll sit on a stool and talk to them and listen to their problems. So she was, and then she was the one who said, let's go to hospitals and visit the people suffering in the hospital. And she's the one who, she looks kind of like Queen Elizabeth. She took Queen Elizabeth and her sister Margaret Rose to the hospitals, and they said, oh, we don't want to go to hospitals. Hospitals are boring. And she said, we are the royal family and we love hospitals. And she would talk to the soldiers and hold their hands. And this was pre-Diana. And so kind of like the echoes of Diana, she was not the first one that did this. It was actually Queen Mary who did this. And of course there was Prince Albert before that, who helped the poor, who really took away the whole Dickens. We have this, we know about Oliver Twist and the Artful Dodger and what do you call Scrooge? Aren't there workhouses? And what, they die in workhouses? Well, I might as well decrease the population. How poor and how awful England was, and Albert changed that. So you think that Diana's the first, and no, she's not by any stretch of the imagination. It was these other people who came before her that did that. And they say that King George V was very abusive and and she was scared of him, and she wanted to be the best royal that could be. She constantly read everything she could on the royal families, would tell her husband how royal families survived compared to the ones that were taken down. And he depended on her for that. But her whole life was trying to be the best wife, the best royal. And I just really, when I first saw her, and then saw her when she was young, and how beautiful she was, and every child she had looked like an angel, and there was something about her that made me say, I must learn about this woman. There's just something about her, and it is kind of sad that because everything was duty, and her whole life was for her husband. No matter what he did, she was by his side. How many animals he killed, she was by his side, whether she liked it or not. She would sit next to him no matter what he was doing, and just be diligent and good. And when they went into the crypt, I think he's buried at Windsor Castle, she looked in through the gates at his coffin. She said, I should be in there with him. That was her duty. She wanted to be in there with him. And before Queen Elizabeth was coronation, she didn't want to ruin it, so she wanted to die long enough before the coronation, so all the attention would be on Queen Elizabeth's coronation. So she chose her death. And it's You know, it's such a beautiful and sad story, you know, and most people don't even know this. But I don't know. Getting back to the animals and the suffering, and said the more suffering,
no, we're not hate.
No. The more hate and the more craziness and the more people screaming in the streets and hating people because of the color of their skin and saying that I mean, just it's all this we've I could just imagine all these beings that are suffering in all these slaughterhouses and that their death is for nothing because we're overindulgent. It's like we have no idea how many animals are just slaughtered and die for nothing. That the idea of this suffering exists and it goes back out into the world. And say you like sometimes say you walk into a room and there's some people in the room that are angry and they don't say a word. They're just sitting there and they're angry. Don't you feel it? If you walk into a room and this room people were tortured in this room, you walk through the room, there's a funny feeling that's still in that room. Like you said, these ghosts, it goes off into the world and we are affected by it. And it's quite possible that the reason why we're in the state that we're in, that people are willing to do what they're doing during these elections, totally not teaching our children, but teaching them to hate, not teaching them the truth, not caring about history, but teaching them to hate.
Yes.
That it could be all this suffering is going out and it's coming back at us and it's driving us crazy. I mean, people that wouldn't otherwise be crazy. They say the Buddhist monks, and they say that everything is connected by a web. And even though they're somewhere in a monastery in Tibet, and saying, "Oh, what good are you doing all the way over here, just praying all day?" Well, we believe that the world is connected in a web. And when you do something in this corner that's bad, that tortures and makes someone suffer, it affects the whole web. So if we're here and we're meditating for peace in the world.
Yeah, I saw.
We're meditating. Om Mani Padme Om.
Yeah.
Means love, compassion to all sentient beings. That's what that means. And so if we're here doing this, it's going to affect the rest of the web. So with that idea, and you've got all this suffering that we don't even think about. You know, we don't think about all the slaughterhouses. We don't think about all the suffering, all these little lives getting killed for nothing, living in horrible conditions. They're alive. They have eyes. They have compassion. It's been proven time and time again that all of these animals you can make into pets, and they love, and they love to be their tummies rubbed. They say chickens are even smarter than dogs. That they have that compassion and love that we see in our animals, and they're being killed, and we have no thought about how much suffering is going on, and it's wasteful. It's not okay. We need to eat, and we need a certain amount of meat, so we have this amount, and they graze in the field. It's not like that. Even dairy animals, dairy cows only live 3 or 4 years before they're killed, and then they take these and hens that lay eggs, the meat is in such bad shape and their bones are breaking that they use that meat to feed the, Meals on Wheels to feed the elderly. The worst of the worst meat you end up getting when you're elderly, if you're like, having meals delivered to your home. So that's it makes sense because we're at a point in time where there's more slaughterhouses than there's ever been. There's more senseless killing than there's ever been. Even the killing that's going on in these inner cities that nobody cares about because it's black on black crime. Nobody cares. All this it's more than it's ever been in history. There's more people in the world than there's ever been. So there's more violence in the world. And there's more wasteful, all these little tiny lives that we don't think about because they're animals, dying and suffering. It all affects the web and we're feeling it. So we've got to a point where people will do anything to get someone elected, even something that's illegal to get them elected. But who are you getting elected? A man who every time he opens his mouth says something racist because the guy you say in the office is racist, but he's helping minorities. Who wrote the 1994 crime bill? The party who put up the statue of the grand exalted cyclops of the West Virginia KKK, Robert KKK Byrd, who was the leader of the Democrat Party in 1988. And you put up his statue and the president eulogized him. This president, Obama eulogized him. Clinton eulogized him. Hillary said he was her mentor, and they called him the conscience of the Senate. He was the conscience of the Senate. The grand exalted cyclops of the West Virginia KKK was the conscience of good conscience or bad conscience of the Senate. So we've come to this point where people are doing insane things. The media is lying and censoring and getting people riled up, getting people to hate other people who have done nothing wrong, who have never been racist, who are poor. The color of my skin, I've lived my whole life to help people. They're getting people to hate other people for no other reason. Oh, you voted for such and such?
Yeah.
Oh, you have to cry racist first. You have to be a Democrat and you got to call racist first. Otherwise, you're on the list.
Yeah.
This is absolute insanity. It is Martin Luther King turned on its head. It's even Malcolm X turned on its head. He said, never trust a white liberal.
Yeah.
You never trust a white liberal. He saw through them. That's why they shot him.
Yeah.
Honestly, what do you think they killed him? He was telling the truth. Who killed Martin Luther King? And he also, Malcolm X said, be careful of these leaders of these Black communities because they're being subsidized by these white liberals. He was right.
Yes.
He was absolute. So this insanity that we're not learning history. You're not teaching history to our children. You're teaching your children to. You're not the gender you were born as. You give them hormones so they never go through puberty. Give hormones to a child. Give sex reassignment to a child. It's above and beyond. You couldn't imagine the insanity and you know how it started and then it's escalating very quickly. This is Hillary and all of the 2016 election. Hillary's voters were throwing eggs and tomatoes and beating up Trump supporters. who hadn't done anything, who hadn't done anything. And then now, it just every year, every moment that passes, the insanity grows and grows and grows. And now you're willing to put somebody who was friends with segregationists, who wrote the 1994 crime bill, who keeps saying racist things. This guy who is a racist, who destroyed the Black community with the 1994 crime bill. We wanted to put the wife of the president that signed that into law in office. Do you know what you're saying to me that because of the melanin content in my skin, and you haven't walked a mile in my shoes to know what I've suffered or everything that I've ever done in my life has been to be kind to people, to be kind to minorities, to want to adopt minorities, to give them a better life, to try to give anybody that's poor and suffering a better life, anybody who's neglected or alone a better life, being kind to people and good to people and generous to people. That it's absolute insanity. And I say, yeah, I eat less meat. Definitely eat less meat. One thing, there's got to be.
Okay,
it does make that idea of the web, and what one part of the web affects the other part, and you've got violence that is piled on top of violence, insanity on top of insanity is just filling the web faster than we can imagine. These past 4 years, things have gone completely overboard. It's like, you put fungus, you've got some mold growing, and so you add more moisture to it and heat and have it grow like crazy. It's growing exponentially at a rate that I could never imagine. That in many respects, that this darkness that is this is paranoia or metaphysical. It is metaphysical, and it is supernatural. And it kind of, when you think about it, it makes sense, doesn't it? Because it's a country that was sane, that was working towards completely getting rid of racism. Most people, nobody wanted that. That's why they voted Obama in twice. Nobody wanted that. Whoever, the few that were left. And that bullying, remember, Obama said bullying in school was bad. They had some kind of anti-bullying. Well, that was good. But then all of a sudden, everybody's a bully. And it's the Democratic Party.
Yeah. And you see how they move in public confrontations, and they're off. You typically not physically burly individuals, but when you see them in street confrontations, their body language, the way they use their voice, is exactly like a schoolyard bully.
Yeah. They've all been taught to be bullies.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, when I left school, I thought, okay, I've left the bullies behind. You think you're going to go into the world and everybody's going to be an adult, and that's just something that happens in school. I can't believe. I can't believe it's insanity. It's insanity that people would say, "Wait, so what do you mean the color of someone's skin? It's what they're doing. Wait, That is racism. That's not racism. When racism is right in front of their face and they go and vote for it.
Yeah.
And they do what Time magazine said by fortifying the election to get real racism into the White House and get the guy who's actually helping the minority out of the White House and hate everyone that follows him. That's insanity. And how can people do this if they're thinking properly? It's like, you walk through a house where people have been tortured in for 100 years, some horrible murders or something has happened, and you walk and you can feel it. It's still there. The energy is still there. So I think this violence that we don't think about slaughterhouse. Nobody thinks, and nobody thinks about the ways. They don't. That there's so much going on. There's just so much suffering and death and evil and insanity going on that it's permeated the whole world, and it's growing exponentially. It's just layer on top of layer on top of layer on top of layer. Very fast.
Inflating atheism, layer on layer on layer of animal torture. Felina, you said you wanted to do this.
There's no
you wanted to do this for 45 minutes. We're going on 3 hours.
Okay, that's true. Well,
we'll end it up.
How do we undo this? How do we
visit it upon our children? Yes.
What do we do to unwind this? And
we'll tackle that issue in part 2. We'll tackle that issue in part 2.
Yeah.
But tune in.
Well, I think
Wicked Felina time, same great Wicked Felina channel.
Well, I think good. We have to believe that good is more powerful than evil. And even if you've got a little bit of good, it can overcome evil. Maybe not. Evil and anger is it's very intimidating. It's very frightening. Although Queen Mary, that's how we got Queen Mary. I started watching videos because the Queen Mary. That's why I was talking about Queen Mary. I don't know. Do prayer. I mean, really do some scriptural rosary. I mean, really do the hardcore praying.
Yeah.
Really. And when you're out there in the world, just emanate kindness and love, and just try to fill the void and push the evil and the anger and the hate, push it away with love. Didn't Jesus say something about that? Or Martin Luther King said, you cannot destroy darkness with darkness.
Yes.
You can only destroy darkness with light. And I think Jesus said something about that too. That's the only way we can do it. And some hardcore praying.
Yes.
But every moment and every moment of our lives and every breath we breathe, peace. Think of peace and love.
Speaking of prayer,
it's up to us. It's up to the few soldiers that see what's going on.
Yeah.
See the insane. These people who are insane and angry, I don't think they realize what they've become. And so it's up to us, no matter how few there are of us, to really do some hardcore praying just really every moment of the day, be at peace and emanate love and do acts of kindness.
Yeah.
There's a random acts of kindness. Well, it's time for that to come back again. We've got to unwind things, and we've got to get back to that now.
That's the bumper sticker on the back of the Volvo of someone who'd shrieked down.
Along with coexist, right? But the people with the coexist are the ones that end it with random acts of kindness. Are the ones
that was my
made the world the way it is now.
that was another punchline of mine. I said, how did Volvo have the foresight to put Obama Biden stickers on all of their 83 models? But speaking of prayer, there's something over here I skipped over. Lawn Star says, please say a prayer for the folks down in Alabama who lost loved ones to the tornadoes of today. Yes, say prayers. There's been a lot of weird weather stuff happening recently.
Well, there's always been weird weather. There's more people in the world, so when something happens, it's going to affect more people, right? Because there's more people covering all the land.
Benjamin Delatko says, I thought you were discussing Tic Tacs that the military jets detect on their radars and that pilots see sometimes. Oh, we're going to circle back.
Well, that was the beginning. We started off with that.
Then we circled.
Yeah. We started off with that.
And but all roads lead to animal torture.
We're figuring it's China. We think it's China, and because our military was so depleted under Obama, though Trump built it up, it takes a while for super technology like that to come about. It takes many, many, many years, and China steals technology, steal it from us, they steal it from all over. But they're the ones. Was it 1.5 billion people? And basically, a communist regime. You make your people into drones, and they do what you tell them to do. And their military is being pushed into. They're creating islands off of the coast of China to put their military on. So their military is growing. So the likelihood it's China. They're the only ones with the manpower and the money and the time to create all this. So I think it's not our military, because there's been cited by most it hovering above all our naval vessels from 2004 to 2020. There have been sightings.
That would be the Air Force spying on the Navy. Since all our skunk works are under the Air Force.
It doesn't, and it breaks the speed of sound without creating a sound, and it's up there much longer than a drone could ever be. So we've decided that it's probably China, and we're in bad shape because they're not concentrating on building up our military technology to protect us or protect the world, because they're too busy destroying the country, breaking it into pieces, and using all the money they can to feed all their pet projects. We've got a bunch of adolescents that are running the country now, unfortunately, and that have all their fingers in all the piggy banks, and they're just spending it all on all their whims. So to create such a thing, you have to have a well-ordered military. You have to have discipline. Huge amounts of people that are disciplined and well-ordered, and well-funded. And we don't have that. For 4 years, Trump built it up. Obama, over 8 years, tore it down. And of course, Bush was using it till, for his 8 years too. So I say that it can't be America. It can't be. And it's always over our naval vessels. Can't be America. And the likelihood, our Milky Way galaxy, they say if it was a UFO in our galaxy alone, it would have to travel like 100,000 light years to get across it, to get to us from some planet that might have something that we don't even know about. So the likelihood that it's UFOs at all is really far flung. It's just like, why even bother? One look at our Earth, why even bother? It's if you've got these Tic Tac drones that are above naval vessels, this is a part of our military. They are watching what our military is doing, and they're taking information. So any spaceship that has the technology to fly that far is not going to hover over a ship that is probably our military vessel. What, to get information from us when we're probably 100,000 light years behind them? I don't think so. There's nothing they can learn from us. There's nothing they can learn from our Navy ships. Really? If you've got a thing that could hover up, that could move that fast, and could stay up there for that long, unmanned, you don't need to look at a ship. What are you going to learn from a ship? I mean, it just seems ludicrous. They're looking. It could be, so it can't be a UFO. China is watching what we're doing. That's what's going on. I mean, I say, like, I have to say it's my opinion, and I can't be 100% right, but it seems like it makes the most sense. But I'll just have to say it's my opinion. Okay, that the likelihood.
Well, they're watching all our TikTok dances. That's for certain. So
yeah. The TikTok comes from China.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So characters like the powers that be effed us over decades ago. The fact that they've forsaken us to appease the PRC is just symptoms of something bigger, just a hypothesis. Yeah, they don't believe in the ideals of America. That's it. They're all pulling their own strings, or someone has compromising material on them.
Yeah, well, you've got to be. I think they pretty much said, look, either you're with us, either you're going to be at the bottom, like in all communist countries, or you could do what we want you to do, and you'll be at the top. You'll be running the show. So all these politicians, all these people who are power hungry, they want to run the show. They don't want to be at the bottom like us. Little do they know that you can't have too many leaders.
Yeah.
And they're going to be a big awakening.
Yeah.
They're going to, all of a sudden, what am I doing down here? I thought, didn't I do what you wanted me to do? Yes, you did. But we can't have too many. You can't have too many dictators running the show. You can't.
Yeah.
So they're gonna, but it's gonna be too late for all of us. Isn't like I'm going to be laughing because we're probably going to be dead. It's going to be too late for all of us. Is what's going to happen. So that's why all these countries and all these leaders, all these people who are politicians, they want money and they want power. That's why they get into politics. They go up the ladder. It's all about power. And so when you're offered this, oh, you could be at the bottom or you could be at the top, and you'll never be voted out of office because you'll always be running the show. You know, and then you'll have all these people down here will be the worker bees, will be the worker drones for you. So which one do you want? Of course, it doesn't even take a moment's thought to decide somebody who's after power, which side they want to be on. So that's the reason why they're all in on it. Oh, it's just my opinion. So we've got to be careful. This is YouTube. Just my opinion.
The opinions expressed here do not necessarily reflect.
That's right. I could be totally wrong.
But it does. It does. Because we agree about everything, even though I think you're a little Looney Tunes with the whole animal suffering. I'm joking. No, that was the most impassioned defense of vegetarianism I've ever heard. I used to listen to Consolidated when I was a teenager. But yes, it was a very impassioned defense of vegetarianism that comes from a non-vegetarian.
So there you go. My dog Chocho, one I had for these dogs, I made him into a vegetarian. I just changed his food and he stopped eating meat. Just boom. Yeah. See, that was a very unusual dog.
Well, you said you wanted to do this 45 minutes, and I feel
I know it's longer than 45 minutes.
Felina was laid out when she tried to do an 8-hour. This is strenuous.
We were gonna do 2 streams. One was gonna be political, and the other one, this one's gonna be like what's creating this darkness around the world, and do these Tic Tac drones, you know, this has anything to do with it. It is, you know, this, it's so weird. Is it UFO? Is it coming from us?
Well, this is what Benjamin Galadko says, and you people need to get some more pronounceable names. I'm having difficulty with all of these. He says, I think it's demons. They prefer the high, lonely places and waterless place. High altitude beyond or above cloud ceiling certainly qualify there. I've been listening to like prophetic preachers, and what they say has been happening in the natural realm is like God has let all the demons loose. It's like the scene in Ghostbusters where the EPA guy throws the pull switch, and all the evil spirits just rampage. So maybe that's it. And hopefully there's going to be a miraculous save because we're going to need divine intervention at this point.
Yes, definitely. That's why we're going to have to do the heavy dose praying.
Mm-hmm.
Bring out the big guns of prayer.
which I do in my own undisciplined way.
It's going to be disciplined. It's going to be disciplined.
Yes.
We should do it once or twice a week. We should do a stream on really heavy duty prayer once or twice a week. Because it's just this, we have to bring out the big guns. This is serious. It seems like every day you want to see something getting better, just a little bit of good, and it's even England is being inundated with refugees coming from France because they're throwing them out of France, and it's just like 20,000. It's like huge numbers are coming in, and they just don't have any place for it. So it's like there isn't any let up. Every day it's getting heavier and heavier, and the only way we can survive this is if we feel human beings need tools. It's kind of like, I will do this, and all of a sudden it's going to be gone. Some kind of magic spell. It's or whatever. You'll read a little one of books that Oprah had suggested. Remember Oprah's book club? Mm-hmm. We read that The Secret, the book about this, and everything is going to be nice. We need, for us to survive, we need tools, and we need to know that we're actually doing something every day to help the world get to a better place. And heavy duty prayers is one of them. Like I said, every breath that you take, every moment of your, can you imagine if you are constantly in a state of peace and emanating love, trying to create love within you and peace within you, sanity. It's for sanity's sake. If we don't have this, we won't be able to survive the coming storm. And if we do this, and but few that there are out there that hear our voices, and hopefully other people are suggesting this too, the more, and though there are few, if we do this every day, every moment of the day, like every beat of your heart, is getting us closer and closer to peace, to bringing more peace and love, instead of constantly creating violence and hate and sending that out, and it creates more violence and hate. So everyone feels that, and it's not a natural state for humans.
Well, I fear I may be a net negative, because I just feel rage. I just stamp around my apartment just in a rage all the time. So I might be a net negative as far as that goes.
So, despite of your rage, you're still just a
rage. Yes.
Okay, I get it.
The most profound couplet. Yes.
But it's the only way. Is really, it's the only way. And then we remain sane through this. We aren't overcome by what's happening. We don't become like them. We can see how bad the world is and how awful people are becoming and twisted. And we don't become that. We keep ourselves from becoming that, and we remain sane. And when they fall and falter and they realize everything they've done is for naught, because they're kicked back down the stairs with us, then there may be a waking up. There may be a waking up. And if we're sane, then we can say, hey, this wasn't good. We can pull people back from the insanity when they start getting knocked in the head, saying, I was supposed to rule the world. I was supposed to be the empress of the world, or whatever. I was supposed to be up there, but I'm down here. What happened? Because they lied to you. Because they used you, like they try to use as much of us as possible. But that's the only way we're going to get through this, is if we remain sane. And to remain sane, you must remain at peace. You must constantly look for kindness. Wake up every day thinking, what good can I do today? Is there any way I can make someone happy today? If you're constantly thinking of, like, you don't have to buy something for someone, but just smile, laugh, joke, sit down and let's have a chat, and we'll chat about some silly things, and get our minds off of everything. Just what can I do to make someone happy today? And just constantly create that peace all day. We will remain at peace, we will remain sane, and we'll also find laughter in that.
Yes.
We'll go down the road of laughter and joking. Despite of everything going on, we're still laughing and joking and seeing things. We're standing apart from it. We're not going to be swallowed up by it. And they say, the Bible says that there is the few that will survive the apocalypse, the war. There are those few that will survive, and those are the only way you're going to stay on the right path is if you keep yourself peaceful and sane. Otherwise, you're going to get swallowed into them. You're going to become like them. You're going to become violent, because you're going to think that's the only way to survive. But if you remain at peace and you remain sane and you constantly are creating love within you and thinking about, I'm going to make them. And can you imagine if you're constantly joking around, making people laugh, you're not just making people laugh that are Trump supporters or people who want to be kind or want to be good. All of a sudden, it might break the insanity. Like, you say something funny, you're constantly thinking of saying funny things or doing silly things, and then all of a sudden, some people come into your path that are of this group, of this violent, crazy group. And then all of a sudden you say something that's so ridiculous and so funny and so brilliantly funny that it breaks.
Well,
it breaks their insanity and their anger, and they look at themselves and they can see with humor, you can see how ridiculous that they're being, how ridiculous the anger is.
That is what humor does. Humor is a way of poking at taboos in a way that has a sort of social sanction to it.
That's probably the reason why they've taken comedy away and taken free speech away, is for that very reason. Because I know that it's suffering and humor that unites humans together. Is laughing at each other. Even if we watch a show that's about Italians and we laugh, we love it. It's not making fun of Italians. It's funny. Oh yeah, I know Italians that are just like that. You know, it's like we don't find it insulting, and we don't mind that people of other ethnicities and races and religions laugh at it too. We all laugh together. Remember, a comedian used to stand there and used to joke about everything and everybody and all humanity's idiosyncrasies, you know, and then everybody in the room, all different races, religions, ethnicities, creeds, colors, all laugh together.
Yes.
That's when we were human, and that's when the comedian was the most intelligent person in the room. That's when you had your George Carlins that used to break through the insanity with this, this crazy. Oh my God, that is so funny. And then everybody would be united, laughing. Robin Williams did it too. God rest his soul. God rest both of their souls. But that's what united us. And we looked at the comedians and they're so intelligent. Wasn't George Carlin, Robin Williams, weren't they so intelligent? To me, the most intelligent people that as from childhood, I looked at the comedian.
Yeah.
Because they saw through the bullshit. And they told you what it was. And we laughed because you see it, that's true, it's true. Yes. And we were able to do that at one point, and now we can't do it anymore because you're offended. No.
Well,
nobody used to laugh. Nobody used to, you know, it's like it's like, I don't know.
Well, that's the thing is that like I've never seen a pussy hat, you know, green eyeglasses, blue hair, or whatever. You know the symptoms. I've never seen any of those people laugh, and they have all sorts of ideas about how TV shows and movies should be better, but I've never seen any evidence that any of them even enjoy movies and TV shows
or do an act of kindness.
Yeah.
Oh, you need a napkin? I'll go get one for you. I mean, something as simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an act of kindness. Just a little. I'll get you a napkin. Sure. Oh, COVID! I can't touch the napkin, and now we can't do that because of COVID. Oh my God! But yeah, but the only way then you see how ridiculous you're being. That's what humor did. It used to cut right through that, and then you'd see how silly you were being. Oh my God, that's right. But we can't do that anymore because they don't want us to see the truth. They don't want to break through it. And for us to say, they don't want that. They want to keep putting these layers in front of your eyes.
Well, you know, tyranny always demands grimness, because if you ever so much as crack a smile, the entire dam might come crashing down. So yeah, there's a grim determination that everything is.
I think they're pretty whoever it was that devised this, and it could be many. It's probably many. Let's say you have to eliminate this and you have to eliminate this, because you're eliminating our humanity. That's what it is.
Yeah.
No, you're a cell in the state. and the cell works for the state. It doesn't have any independence, but to work for whatever the being is. But in this case, it's the state. And so you have to take our humanity away. You take joy, you take laughter away, and you don't recognize that we've all suffered. Take that away from us. Oh, you're just evil. You've got white skin, you're evil. Wait a second. You have no idea what I've been through.
Yeah.
I could have suffered more than that person. No, you're not a minority. You have no idea what I've been through. You take these things away. I think the humor is the intelligence, and then the suffering is the soul. You've taken our minds and our soul away.
Yes. And Benjamin Gulatko says another terrific thing. He says, humor requires truth, and they exist only through lies. That's actually a very...
That's true. That's true.
You said, what is this, 10 words? You said a lot in 10 words.
Yeah. That's brilliant. That's true. It's brilliant.
So
we should cut it up because I was so tired earlier. I said I can't do 2 streams tonight. I'm too tired. I was like, I was gonna try to take 1 hour nap, and I couldn't do it. I was like, oh no, I've got to stay awake.
And still no word from Canadian Adrian. We have no idea.
I hope he's okay, or maybe he smoked a little bit too much, or
he's wandering. He's wandering around the Manitoba highway, confused. Wandering traffic.
I know he would have injected some wisdom and some humor. He's very funny. He's actually very funny. I think humor and intelligence go hand in hand. But anyway, we'll try to get him on some other time. Yes. But nonetheless, this has been a very productive stream.
Yes.
Yes.
It's been a long time since we've done it. Does he meet the 1 drop rule of Irishness? Is he in any way Irish?
Is he? No, he's not. He's Dutch and German.
Okay, well I'll be the only Irish person then.
You're half Irish, half Italian.
Our extremely belated St. Patrick's Day live stream, which will be next.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be because I'll definitely be supernatural, but in the good supernatural.
Supernaturally.
So we'll have some fun. Hopefully, we'll do that tomorrow night.
Okay. Yeah. Well, tomorrow night is Friday night. I mean, even if it's 12 o'clock. So you want to do a Friday night?
Wait, tomorrow? Do we? Oh, tonight. That's right. It's 12 o'clock. So that means tonight. So
you want to do it Saturday? What's that?
What?
You want to do it Saturday?
No, Friday. We'll try to do it Friday night.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, and I'll try to get some sleep.
These things are taxing. It's taxing to do a 3-hour live stream. It's really taxing.
Especially when we thought somebody else was going to kind of like, we're going to listen to his wisdom and humor and kind of, it turned out to be something else, but still it turned out to be good.
Yes.
Nevertheless, it was good.
Well,
thank you.
Always worthwhile with you, Felina.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, with you too. You're always
and with everyone in the comments. Thank you. You've all been.
I know. Look at with not one troll in the comment section.
Yeah, it gets kind of lonely. Sometimes the trolls are our only friends. So
No,
even you, Jesus and Satan, wherever you are. He admitted he's a troll. He's not the only one who admitted he's a troll. So yeah, we love you all. Thank you all very much.
Yes.
You, Benjamin Gulatko. God bless everyone.
God bless all of you. Thank you for joining us. And see us again. We'll be coming back soon. Okay?
Have a good night.
Good night. God bless and do good things. Kindness.